Welcome to this bonus edition of Strange New Pod. I am your Fleet Admiral and host, Julian Brown, alongside the best bridge crew this side of Delta Vega. Don't go there, the lobsters are big. Vice Admiral Eric is here, ready to kick some Romulan ass, but luckily not wearing a red shirt. Hopefully you get that reference, it's from the movie. Captain Hawk is also here, and I'm just going to let you do your thing, man.
My thing? What could that be?
I don't know. What
has happened? I saw it happen. I watched it happen. Don't tell me it didn't happen.
Hello, Christopher.
There it is.
Once a year, we let him do it.
Yep. Hello, Christopher. I'm Nero.
The codes, please, sir.
Our own personal Eric Bana. How did we get so lucky? Sub-Commander Giraffe is here, ready to reconvene the Church of Spock. And finally, Commander MC is here, continuously living in a loop of the 2-hour thirst trap that is Star Trek 2009.
Damn right I am.
It's true. It's true. Welcome back, guys. How we doing? How goes it?
I'm so happy.
I'm so happy I got to watch this again today.
I have a question. I have a question about the Church of Spock, because we know that Ethan Peck called himself the priest of...
That means you are the bishop.
Who's in charge of the Church of Spock? Like, which Spock?
Ooh.
I mean, I feel like it's the Holy Trinity.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought it was a dig at Ethan Peck. I was here for it.
It wasn't a dig. It was actually, but now that we're talking about it. Oh, shit. But you are the bishop of that church.
Thank you.
And I don't know, MC, you're the deacon. I don't know. You're something. I don't,
Should be higher.
Not
deacon.
Higher,
Deacon's
definitely higher.
Cardinal.
Cardinal. I forgot about cardinals. They're in there. That was a cardinal sin on my part.
Oh,
get off my bridge.
We're getting started early, folks. This week, Star Trek 2009 is 15 years old. We're fucking old, guys. It didn't make me feel very good. Yeah, it could get its learner's permit in some states. So that's how old this movie is. We are going to take a look back at the hype surrounding the film, the casting choices, the Enterprise, the plot, and of course the groundwork that the movie laid down for all of the Trek, this golden age of Trek that we are living in right now. A very big thank you to our amazing Badmirals, our executive producers, for making bonus pods like this one possible. Simon Steger, Commander Chris, the Chief Ernesto Castagna, Chris Waterman, and Tara Poland. You guys rock. Thank you for making these possible. We are getting right into the... Dana's asking me how drunk I am. I worked today, so I'm not, and I've had 2 sips of beer, so I'm...
Just because you work today doesn't mean
rude.
that
First of all,
rude. Yeah, rude. 2, I have a child with strep, so I'm just exhausted. So this show is going to be loopy. We're getting right into the show.
Speaking of loopy.
Oh, well done. Well done.
Nice. Some people are professionals in here.
Some are. That's right. Yum Yum Pod goes, Julian is dazed from the lens flare. That is the accurate assumption. Yes. We're in the Stranger Loop. We're getting right into the show today. So it's, I think, common knowledge that we all adore this film. So, but that doesn't mean that you don't want some things to change. So if there was one thing that you could change about Star Trek 2009, what would it be? Giraffe, wow, you raised your hand.
I'm gonna say
early.
one. I'm gonna say one because I know MC will have the other one, so I know we're covered. Can we not have all the women in underwear? Can they wear clothes? Like, is that possible that they wear clothes before being naked? And like having to say, like, can they say something at least before being naked? I don't know.
So you want them to have some lines before taking their clothes off?
No, just like,
no
have them not necessary to have their clothes off.
They fixed that in the second movie,
one of
right?
them.
No.
Guyla is naked. Uhura is naked. What's her face? Marcus is naked.
Carol Marcus.
Yeah.
Basically, the only one is Jayla. in Beyond. Is the only
In
one.
Beyond, he's the only one that
Did
keeps her
not get
clothes on.
naked.
Different director.
Yeah.
Yep.
Different director.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my one thing. Thank you.
You've put me on the spot because I have no idea what the other thing is. I actually have many things that I could say. I mean, if go over to my YouTube, I've actually rewritten this entire movie. So there's a lot of things, but
Shameless plug.
yeah, well, I mean, it goes with the strange new loop. There is one that is the one that I would have to change, and that is that actually having Kirk get suspended for the Kobayashi Maru thing, because that one act just infuriates me because it makes the whole like his rise to captaincy just so fucking unbelievable. And it would have been so easy to have him still have gotten the commendation that he got in the prime timeline, because that still would have pissed Spock off. That probably would have pissed Spock off even more.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Who else?
I had another
see a
thing if you want.
oh,
I'm like here for it. Like please tell
So-
me. Like let me know.
Is it too many? Wait.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So
Yeah.
Eric's saying no more lens flares.
You know what? I don't mind lens flares.
I don't mind the lens flares either.
I don't mind lens flares, but not too many lens flares. Like they brought lights on the stages so they could do the lens flares, like extra lens flares. Like that's.
Oh no,
that's
it was
too much.
like a choice on JJ's
Yeah,
part
yeah,
to
for
do
sure.
it. Yeah. I get that. Yep. Hawk.
I think the biggest concerns of the film have already been addressed, and I'm trying to think like, yeah.
No,
the-
there's another one. There's another one. Hawk, I believe in
Okay.
you. Let's go. Come on.
Okay. The sexist stuff, lens flares, man, they were still so new at the time that, I can forgive it, but
He used it in Super 8 as well. So
yes, it does. Yeah. And I'm sure Mission Impossible 3, but
Yes, they were in Mission Impossible 3
Yeah.
for sure. Yep. I just watched all those recently.
all right, I give up. Draft. What is the most glaring?
But it's a problem like in many movies. But
Glaring like
the,
a lens flare.
the bullshit like teachers sleeping with their student. needs to go.
Oh yeah. No, they really should have had
that.
a better way
Yeah.
to do that.
It is
They
a big
didn't need
no-no.
to make they didn't need to make Spock a professor. Like that was so
Could we sidebar real quick?
Sure.
Because
Always.
JJ Abrams did something really fucking weird in this movie. And that was allow
Only one thing.
good point. He allowed cadets to rank up while at the academy, which is like unheard of in all previous Star Trek. Because
Parallel
I'm sorry,
universe.
Nog.
It's another universe.
no, Nog is an ensign and then gets promoted to lieutenant at the end of in the series finale DS9. But
He was still a cadet for a while.
well,
and
but he did what Tilly was doing in Discovery season 1. He was on his like year abroad, right?
Okay,
on the Defiant, but he didn't have a rank still. He was still a cadet. Like Uhura is a full bird lieutenant. Who else? McCoy is like, I think, second in command of medical. Kirk, I mean, well, we won't talk about, but it's weird that they have ranks at the academy. So is it sleeping with your
Yes, yes,
it's
it
still
is.
sleeping with someone a rank
You know,
above, right?
if you need
Yeah.
like to explain it and find like IDs, he's still very clearly a professor, and she's still very
Yeah,
clearly
fair. No,
somebody that
fair.
is under him in like,
Yeah.
administratively, which
Yeah.
is fucked up and is a thing that should not be this normalized. Don't sleep
Yep.
with your student. It's fucked up.
Yep. Fair. I went to boarding school and there was a lot of that.
Still fucked
Yeah.
up.
Oh, I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's not. It's R2D2 who was in the debris, by the way, folks in the chat. It was R2
Yeah.
in the debris when Hawk, did you actually end up picking one?
Nope, that's a good one though.
I give you this one. I give you this one. It's Hawks.
Thank you.
No
more Star
worries,
Wars
I'm here for
debris.
you.
That's what you needed.
Yes.
Yeah. Me. So this is going to be controversial because it's been brought up lately because the dude just keeps rearing his old 90-year-old head. But
Oh my
Willi-
god.
Oh no.
No.
I know exactly
No,
what you're gonna
don't-
say.
don't
William
say it,
Shatner.
don't
No,
say
I
it,
am going to
don't.
say it. Hold on. They had a scene written for Shatner in this that I think would have worked in the best possible way to bring him into this movie, because I still think, despite whoever like Shatner is as a person or his social media handler is as a person, like Shatner's no nice dude either, but like the scene that they had written for him at the end of the film, I think actually would have been really beautiful in the perfect way, because it's not actually him. It's like Spock listening to a hologram of him, like, because Spock like wished him happy birthday, and I guess he missed it, and he was like, you know, it seemed like the perfect way to bring him into the film without bringing him in the film. And like, of all the ways, so you know what, we wouldn't have to have this conversation anymore. That would have been it. That would have been William Shatner came back, he recorded these lines.
Yeah, but
he still
it's kind
would,
of funny that he's mad about it.
Right. It's always a little bit funny.
He's the one who said no.
I know he's
Yeah,
but he
that's the
says
thing.
no. He says no, and then he says yes, and then so anyway, I would have liked that to be in the end, but that's the
About
only
all
thing.
the scenes that are missing in this movie, let's be honest that I want to see the Romulans escaping from the Klingon prison.
Yes.
That would have
Yeah.
been fucking
Yeah.
epic. The birth of Spock would have been like super fucking cool. Like there's like a lot of scenes that they shot and
Yeah,
like,
they shot
didn't put in the movie.
and they're like they shot and cut like they're completely filmed like with music and everything, and
yeah, they're like
they
fully
never made
edited.
a director's cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I honestly feel if they had included a lot of those scenes, that Nero would be thought of as like up there with Khan as like one of the best Star Trek villains. But
He's not
because I
already.
mean,
And
he's so
also-
good.
Also, I think that that would have made a little bit for the like understanding his motivations.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, like you
Yeah.
don't really connect to him. You're like he's just a madman, like blowing up planets.
But he saw
Yeah.
it. Don't tell him he didn't see it.
He saw it happen. He watched it happen. Don't
would've-
tell him it didn't happen.
It would have been cool
Nobody's
to
telling you
see.
it didn't happen.
True. It would have been cool to see the prequel comic that they had.
Yeah.
Like some of that, like a little bit, even if it was just like a DVD extra. Like I would have loved to see the Enterprise, and like Worf and like Geordi
Data in command of the Enterprise.
and Geordi
Yeah.
doing the ship that was
That would have fucked so many things
jellyfish,
for
yeah.
like Picard.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I liked those comics too. They were really good. I'm a little bit sad that Picard didn't follow up on some of them. Yeah. Anything else? I know you have like tons. You can keep going. Like we just started. Do you have more, or is that
yeah,
it?
I have more, but like we need to do the podcast. So
We need to do a
Yeah.
podcast. Okay,
just
well,
watch
let's-
MC's video. I'm sure they're all in there.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like every single one of these things, except for the Shatner thing, because fuck that guy, it's included in there.
I'll be the one. I don't want to call myself as like sympathetic towards him, but I
Ooh,
just
you're
would
a
like to see this.
Shatner lover boy.
I'm really not.
Ah,
It's a Shat nerd.
I'm seeing if there's any in the chat. That's disgusting. Let's see. I had to close out the window and restart. the pod to
Jedi
get
Cat has a
live
good
action.
one.
Oh,
Would have
okay.
liked to have seen Bakula as Admiral
Yeah.
Oh,
that'd
that
be
would have been
good.
nice.
Archer. Yeah.
I still think we could see that in Strange New Worlds, but you know, we'll
But
see.
that would have been really nice in this, because back in those days we were getting like the handing off of stuff.
Yeah, we
because,
were.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
and he can be looking for his dog. There's like so many,
yeah.
like there's so many opportunities to just bring him in this movie without like changing anything.
Yep. Yeah, let's do it. Let's get into this. We're not doing like a deep dive review of the film. We're just kind of doing a retrospective on it. So we're gonna start talking about the hype of the film, and our order tonight's gonna go MC Giraffe, of course, because this is their episode. Eric Hawk, followed by myself.
Did you want to show the trailer, the teaser? I didn't ask you that before. I forgot.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that teaser. So, I mean, if you have it, I don't have it on this
don't.
computer.
I don't.
Oh, you know what?
I assumed you had it because you shared it earlier.
If you guys can shoot the shit for 1 second, this will take me literally 1 second to put
Okay,
on my-
where were
my-
you when you watched the movie first? I have not read the outline. I hope it's not in the outline.
It's in the outline. Well, it's kind of
No, the
it's-
teaser.
no,
Where
it's not
were you when you
outline.
saw the teaser for the first time?
Yeah.
Okay, funny story. I didn't see the teaser because I was living in Turkey at that time, and there was a ban on YouTube, so we shouldn't watch YouTube. It was 2009. It's not like there were a lot of other alternatives to watch anything online. So we had to do so many VPNs and stuff, and it was wild. And anyway,
Shit.
what?
That's dedication, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like a lot. So I actually didn't see the trailer. I just learned there was a new Star Trek movie by happenstance, and I was mad, and I kept somewhere a screenshot of me complaining on Facebook, because back then I was on Facebook, saying like, I can't believe there's a new Star Trek movie and nobody told me.
Did they announce it? Because I remember just seeing the teaser and being like, "What the fuck? When did this happen?"
They have
No,
announced
they
it.
did announce it, and I remember I don't remember where I was, but I remember watching the teaser like
Was it the same
20
day?
times in a row. I don't remember.
No, it wasn't, because I actually do have a story about this. When the teaser came out, I was huge into Heroes at the time. I was talking today about how basically this movie made me an actual Star Trek fan rather than somebody who likes Star Trek. And the whole reason I went to see it is because I was a big Heroes fan and I liked Zachary Quinto. And so they had announced him as Spock, and I was so looking forward to it. And my brother got to see the teaser before I did. And when he watched it, of course, since I have a one-track mind, I immediately went, "Does Quinto look good in it?" Or I said, "Is Quinto good?" And he thought that when I said Quinto, that I was using some sort of weird slang, because he misheard me. And so for years afterwards, Quinto became a word that we used for cool.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Mine was such a cool experience. I'm just going to talk right now. Sorry, Julian.
No, do it. No, please do.
I was working at a design firm at the time, and I was working on. Am I allowed to talk about this? Yeah, I was working on Kraft. I was working for Kraft at the time. I was designing stuff for them, and all of a sudden, my boss was like, "We have to go into the games room." We had a games room because we were a nerdy design place, and they had set up the projector because the teaser had just come out. So they brought the whole company in to just watch it because we're all fucking nerds. And then right afterwards, I screenshotted Siler Spock, which is what we called him at the time, and put him on all, most of our backgrounds were different cast members. And I had Siler Spock doing the grab that was that wasn't in the teaser, that was in the trailer. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember where I was for the teaser. I just remember screaming a lot.
I totally
being
ruined
yeah.
I did the wrong trailer.
I mean, it's still good.
It's still
I mean,
good.
I can't remember if mine was the teaser or the actual trailer.
Yeah.
Because it also uses the music from that band that does all the trailer music. I always forget their name. Invincible. Yeah. So they're awesome. So before we get to this question, let's watch the teaser. Eric, can I share my screen? Am I good to do that? Cool. So I'm gonna do this. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, actually, just give me 1 second. Let me actually pull up the trailer.
He was not
Heroes,
ready.
guys. Remember? What a good show
Heroes was
for
so good.
a season.
Yeah.
Oh, mean.
I mean, it was only supposed to be a season, so. And then it got popular.
Let's be honest, it's one of these shows that got killed by the writer's strike.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
It did. It totally did. It totally did.
I mean, it's not like it was going.
They were
great
dying.
places.
It was dying. It's just they put the pillow on the face and be like, shh. That will happen.
Season 2 also has Zachary Quinto's shirtless scenes, so I will allow it to
True.
exist.
The bad signal.
I want to briefly talk to you about episode 3 because one thing I noticed immediately is that it's 3 just
Share computer sound. Stereo. Hopefully that's on. Yep.
I can't hear anything.
No, that's okay. I haven't started yet. Okay, here we go. Ready?
The eyes of the world now look into space.
So that's pretty awesome.
I started tearing up a little bit.
Summer 2009. It was
Crazy.
released in May, no?
Well,
Yeah.
Summer.
May's part of the
Yeah.
summer box
Yeah.
office.
I want to share a little funny story about this teaser as well. When we found out that Megan was pregnant with Kateri, our first, I brought a bunch of my friends over and we filmed an announcement video that mimicked this trailer of us building a baby like a crib. So it was like close-ups and then us going ding ding ding, and we're like, I don't think this is a spaceship, and it was a crib.
Oh, that's adorable.
That is adorable.
That is so cute.
So,
Nerds.
So that's kind of my question. When you first saw that teaser of the Enterprise being built with Spock doing, or Leonard Nimoy's Spock doing the Space the Final Frontier monologue, what was your first reaction, MC?
I mean, like I said at the time, I was not a huge Star Trek fan, but that did like pique my interest. And it was already piqued because of Zachary Quinto. But I was like, oh, this looks like it's going to be something really good. So,
Yeah, nice. Giraffe?
As I said,
You didn't see it. You didn't see it. Yeah. Eric?
We were so far removed from Leonard Nimoy and Spock at this point as a Star Trek fan. Yeah. So to hear him do Space the Final Frontier was perfect. Like, I had the biggest goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it because it's so good. I never thought that they'd use it in the film. I just thought they would do it in the trailer to gather fans.
Yeah.
But man, that was such a good, and they did all of that just for the teaser. Like, none of it was supposed to go into the movie. So that's
so
amazing.
many lens flares, though.
So many.
Even in the teaser, there was one every shot.
We should have garnered our expectations at this point.
True.
We've been new.
Yep. Hawk.
I'm super excited, and I also thought that's a great way of doing a teaser in that. It's like basically, that if you didn't know you were watching it and that you'd be so confused, up until like the voice actually came in. I loved it when I first saw it.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of my first memories of this. I wasn't sure exactly what it was, and then you started seeing little shapes, and you're like, "Holy shit, this is it! This is it!" And then the minute that I heard Leonard's voice, I just remember because this was like when this was happening. This was the birth This was the birth of Trek movie. Like Trek movie was the site to go to get all of the news about this movie. So I was on there every day in the forums, in their comments, like trying to figure out like where information was. Like I remember getting like the teaser posters from them, which I also thought were very classy as well, which is what our art is for this podcast episode. God, it's just so good. And when you hear Leonard's voice, and when it's cool that they don't show the whole Enterprise. They show the saucer and they show the Bussard collectors, and it's just really just. I watched this I think 20 times after it came out, and from that moment on, I was like, "This is gonna fucking rock." I just have a great feeling. I had to get something off my chest because Jedi Cat brought it up in the chat about people. A lot of people were complaining. I remember people complaining about the Enterprise being built on Earth.
About the welding? That's it.
Well, and then we had someone complain about welding, and I'm like, you still need to weld to build a starship. Like, programmable matter is out to like the 32nd century. Of course, you still need to weld, but it being built on Earth, and it's like, well, how can it get up into space? One, y'all need to touch some grass. It's gonna be okay. Really, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. Two, ships get built on Earth.
Like the
Discovery was built on Earth. They literally showed Discovery being built on Earth like 2 episodes ago.
Which it was great because it means that ships started being built in space sometime after TOS. And I like that.
Maybe like the Enterprise B was like one of the.
They're stepping into some kind of like chronology.
People were weirded out because the NX-01 and NX-02 were built in San Francisco Fleet Yard's in space, but there's also San Francisco Fleet Yards in San Francisco.
Yeah, they didn't build all of it down up in space.
I don't know if they built all of NX-01 in space or not. Anyway,
Well, the thing is, like, we were also still I'm involved in this.
yeah.
We were still under Vulcan tutelage at that time.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually thought it was really cool that it was being built on Earth. I think people forget too that there's a reason why the Enterprise ends up getting built on Earth, because they build it in George Kirk's home state. Like the whole reason they built it there is because of George Kirk and the Kelvin. Like, just saying.
Yeah, and that
The
shot,
thing I
that
will
shot
never
of
accept is that
that
it
shot
was
of
built in
Kirk.
Iowa.
that shot of Kirk just watching like the ship, like that makes it worth it, because
It does. It totally does. But I loved this teaser. I guess the next question is, and depending on what your feelings were at the time, whether you were a Lost fan or Super 8, that this trailer dropped with Cloverfield. What was your reaction to hearing that J.J. Abrams was directing this film, MC?
I had very little reaction to it because I hadn't seen Super 8, and I mean, I watched Lost, but I mean, like, the thing is, J.J. Abrams always got way more credit for Lost than he should have gotten, because he only did like the pilot. So this is the movie that made me aware of who J.J. Abrams was, really. And I liked him for this. I have a lot more complex feelings for him now.
Yes, I think we all do. Yeah. Dref.
I was stoked because I love Lost, and for me, it was like attached to Lost because that's what his name on the thing, you know. I don't know what he actually did or not, but I actually learned English watching Lost because I didn't know English, and I mean, I knew, you know, like a 7th grade level of English, something like that, and I really wanted to be able to watch the next episode as fast as possible. But if I had to wait for like people to translate and put like subtitles and so on, it was like taking too long.
Yeah.
So I would like torrent the episode as soon as it was dropping in the US, watch it with no subtitles, and then watch it again until I got like what was going on. That's how I learned English. So I was super happy because I loved Super 8. I don't know, what else did he do like before?
He did well.
Super 8 was into 2011.
Fringe.
Oh, yeah.
So
Fringe.
Super 8 was later.
Yeah.
Which is why I
Fringe.
was stoked. Yeah.
I loved Fringe so much. Like, they were like Lost and Fringe were two series I would like religiously watch. And so I was super happy because it was two things that could be like great.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, same. Now I'm like, please take him away.
Take him away. Yes, agreed. Eric.
I liked Alias. It was pretty good.
Oh yeah, Alias as well.
Yeah, that was the other thing, yeah.
Karen's a huge Alias fan.
There's an episode of Alias that takes place in my hometown. And it
Ooh.
was the first time I would see my hometown in an American show. And I was stoked.
I liked Alias. I was so fucking into Lost. Like, it was insane. I was always on the message board 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42, like daily.
Would you do the game in between
Yes.
seasons?
Yes,
Same.
100%.
I was like obsessed.
I used to watch Lost every year up until like 2 or 3 years ago. Like, when the pandemic happened, I stopped watching Lost yearly. That was a lot. Also, big Cloverfield fan. I loved Fringe as well. Fringe is one of my favorite shows. So seeing J.J. Abrams, it was a very, the possibilities were way up. And listening to him talk about how much he liked science fiction was really cool at that time. Now listening to him, sort of, you know, but whatever. That you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the possibilities are really high, and his visual acuity was really good from what I remember. Like, I remember Mission Impossible 3 being good. The episodes of the pilot of Lost was really good.
Yeah.
And he didn't do Cloverfield. He just produced that. But, you know.
Yep. Yeah. Hawk.
Kind of the same. I mean, like, you know, you mentioned everything. Like, you know, Lost, I was huge into that. Love the pilot episodes, and Fringe. Like, you know, I almost forgot like he was attached to that. Like, you know, I'm just checking this thing. He didn't really direct any of it, but he was definitely the executive producer on
Yeah.
it. And that was like one of my kind of go-to shows, especially season 2. I was really excited, because there was a buzz about him and that, and it's like I believe at that time there was still talk about like framing him as like kind of the next Spielberg.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So at the time I was like, yes, perfect.
Yeah. I was never a Lost guy. I started watching the show after it had already did its run, but I never finished it. I just couldn't get into it. But holy shit, so much love for Fringe in the chat right now too. Fringe is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I fucking adore that show. Shout out to Chad Rubel, who did a lot of editing on that show. Yeah. So that was my big like, okay. And he was in the news a lot for what you were just saying, Hawk, about like him maybe possibly being the new Spielberg. And there was already the hints that he really wanted to do Star Wars, and this was kind of his
audition
runner up and audition. Yeah, that like, okay, let's see how he does with Star Trek, because he was always very vocal about being a Star Wars fan, not a Star Trek fan. So I had to like,
aren't we happy that it's this way and not the other way?
I mean, yeah, I think so. So like there was a little bit of trepidation, but then it's like, whether he was an executive producer or not, like he was attached to it, like just from Fringe and some of his other projects. Like I was stoked at the news. So, let's talk about this fucking A-list amazing just thirst trap of a cast. We already know how MC feels about them, because even our proud out ace co-host has her knees buckling for them. It's true, and you know it. You knew this was coming tonight.
I absolutely did. I was asking for it.
You were, and if you want to just see the thirst, go into the watch along chat from last night. So from Anton Yelchin all the way up to Chris Pine as Jim Kirk. What did you think about the casting choices? You could talk about as many of them as you want, as little of them as you want. The floor is yours about this cast.
We're here until 2 a.m.
We're here until 2 a.m. That's why we're not doing a review of the film. MC.
I mean, okay, just first of all, like this cast is an absolute smoke show. Like everybody is good looking in this. It's just ridiculous. But also everybody is just so perfectly cast. Like I can't even like, it's actually to the point where when I hear McCoy in my head, I hear Carl Urban, because he nails it so
Typical.
well.
I mean, Leonard Nimoy said the same thing.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were talking last night about how Bruce Greenwood is like really underappreciated as Pike. Because I mean, like I know we all like our daddy Pike on Strange New Worlds, but Greenwood was so good. Like that speech that he gives to Kirk in the bar, I mean, chills every time. And I mean, of course, we all know I love Zachary Quino as Spock. Like he's still, I think, my favorite Spock.
That's allowed.
Yeah. And like the only casting that I always kind of felt weird about was Winona Ryder, because she's basically like a minute older than Zachary Quinto. But I know they did it for a reason, because they originally were going to open with Spock's birth. And so they needed her to be younger and then age her up. And also, like, I'm okay with it because she's so good. Like, she doesn't have a big role, but she's very impactful. Like, you can see how this comes from like the TOS version of the character, but she is able to put her own spin on it. And I just fucking love everyone. I want 1,000 more movies with these people, because they all inhabit their roles so well, and you can tell they really like each other and that they're having fun.
Yeah.
Draft, before you go, I just want to read, because there's so much love in the chat, and I want to make sure I get to some people in here. Where is it? David Hildebrand, Carl Urban was the best of the bunch in the casting. Jedi Cat, I think Bruce Greenwood as Pike could be included in that thirst trap category. I mean, he is his own level of Daddy Pike, like for sure. No arguments there. There was more. Yeah, Jedi Cat also, I just adore Carl Urban as McCoy. He totally got the assignment. Yeah, a lot, just so much more on that. Draft, your thoughts on the casting choices.
Well,
for
the
this
thing
film.
was like I was happy to get more Star Trek, but it was also weird to have a cast that we've never seen on TV.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're all super hot, and they're also all people we know. Like I remember that I knew what Carl Urban was like in 1000 things.
Yeah, everything.
And everything. He's like in like I love Xena. I used to watch it, and he's in this, and like so I already knew like who he was, and he was also a beloved actor of like nerdy stuff. So I was in same for like Zachary Quinto in Heroes. I think the only one I knew less was Zoe Saldana actually. Because at that time she had not been in any big.
You weren't
She
a
had done
fan of Center
Avatar.
Stage?
I think she had done Avatar right before this came out. I think Avatar.
Oh
was
yeah,
first
but
and
like
this
I
was-
don't like Avatar. Avatar was like
Yeah.
too again like I don't like the noble savage
Yeah.
like things. I like Avatar was not for me at all. And also it's like you don't recognize her,
Well, yeah.
No,
Yes.
you know.
no.
But I feel that movie really like settled her as like the black woman sci-fi person to go to, because then she was cast by Marvel. I mean until Black Panther, let's be honest, she was the one to be in like any single like nerdy movie, sci-fi movie. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody on the chat?
Avatar came out after Star Trek 09
Oh, did it? Okay,
That's
was
what I
wrong.
thought,
it
yeah.
came out
But
before.
2012? What is
Wait a
it?
minute.
in 2009, but December. So
Oh, December.
So a little bit
Oh.
after. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so I know that I did not like connect her to anybody. I think same for John Cho also. I think I didn't know him. But I was a fan of Simon Pegg from like different things.
Oh my
really
God.
stuff.
Yeah.
like I don't know if Hot Fuzz is like before that or after that, but he had done already like the
Before.
Cornetto Shaun of the Dead must be before
Yep.
that.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
so I was like
2005.
stoked to see him, like 1000%. But it was interesting. Like I know there was a lot of. I feel we as fandom were less, maybe just me. I don't know why I say we, but I was less scared of what would come out. I was like, this is no trick. I'm like, I remember these years of famine, these years of nothing when they like stopped with Enterprise. We were like, Star Trek is dead. There's not gonna be any more Star Trek. And then they show up with movies. I was like, feed me, Seymour. Like I was like, I'll take anybody, anything, like I'm happy to be here. When like I see everybody so nitpicky nowadays, like including us sometimes, but
Oh,
we
yeah.
love it.
Oh, yeah.
But like be like, oh, I'm not gonna watch it if it's not like this or like that. I was like, we all went and watched it several times. So yeah, they could have put anybody in this
Yeah,
cast. I
right.
would have been happy.
Yeah. Eric?
I love the cast. The only one I really didn't know was Chris Pine. I
Yeah,
didn't
same.
know what he
Yeah,
was
same.
from. He was apparently in like a Princess Diaries movie, but
Oh yeah, and I really didn't like him in that because I liked the love interest in the Princess Diaries one.
oh, okay. So he's in the second one apparently. Carl Urban, I've been a fan of since fucking Xena. So
Yeah.
having him
Yeah.
show up
Yeah.
was amazing. Obviously, everyone loves the Cornetto trilogy and Spaced for Simon Pegg. Zoe Saldana, I knew because I'd seen Center Stage as a kid, and I loved that movie. And I still unabashedly love Center Stage. It's a dance movie. You should watch it. It's terrible.
I knew her because she was like my favorite part of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
She was also in that, and she was in Crossroads.
And we
Yeah, she
just
was in
forgot that
Crossroads with
we just
Anson.
forgot that Carl Urban was in Lord of the Ring.
Well, I was going to say that.
yeah. I was
Like, oh yeah.
Xena's where I
No.
first met him, though. So,
Yeah.
like, that's where I put him. Bruce Greenwood, like, always a steady actor. So you know that, like older actors that are joining this, you're like, well, you know that there's some sort of pedigree because you have some seasoned actors. John Cho I was a fan of from the early 2000s because he was in a terrible TV show that I used to watch with my roommates. And then obviously Heroes with Quinto. And then everyone else, like, was just like perfectly, like MC said, everyone was perfectly cast. But like going into it, you're like, I know that all of these are good actors, so they're going to bring something to
Yeah.
this at least. And then we have a somewhat talented director or at least a star director at the time. So
That was some
Yay,
very careful wording,
shade.
Eric.
I know what I'm saying. Yeah. So, based on like Alias and like Law, well, at least Alias, there's ensemble casts, and I knew that he could probably work with an ensemble and not just forget about everyone, even though some people did get forgotten about in this movie. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, for me, the big unknown was Chris Pine, like, because I was not familiar with him at all in that casting and that. And all eyes were on him and that, like, and his performance and that to see, like, what he'd bring to it as Kirk, the most iconic of them. I think Quinto, I knew would do a great job in that. He seemed to naturally kind of, meld into that role and that. And I, because again, like everybody, I watch Heroes, love the first season, not the second or the third.
I'm gonna say something so controversial in a second.
He loved the second and third and the fourth.
I loved the second season.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Ouch.
There's a reason for that, but I'll
I was really mad because they because I had heard like in season 2 they had cast Jamie Hector in that who played Marlowe on The Wire, and I was like, oh, that's great, it's like nothing. Yeah, so the standouts in the cast for me, Lynn Choi, or obviously Bruce Greenwood in that, because like I loved him. He's a great actor, great Canadian actor. For anybody ever needs proof of that, check out the clip of him and Fall of the House of Usher talking about lemons and what
God,
you do before
so
you make
good.
lemon.
Oh, I just got goosebumps, dude.
So him as Pike was awesome, and I was such a low key fan of like Eric Bana at the time. Here's my controversial statement for the evening:
I know what it's gonna be.
I liked it too.
best Bruce Banner ever.
I liked him as Bruce Banner and the Hulk.
You're
I like
both
that
fired.
movie.
You're both fired. Oh my god, the
Are you
Ang
speaking
Lee
about
Hulk.
Eric Bana?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
He was the
I don't
original
know if I've
Hulk.
ever.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
like
I've ever
him
seen that
too.
one.
It has the best
Yeah.
editing. I love
Yeah.
that. I love it.
He was good. I don't know if the movie was good, but he was
The
good.
movie is good.
It's fine.
I haven't watched it in forever.
The poodles are weird.
Yeah, but kind of awesome at the same time.
That's
too.
true. I agree with that.
Carl Urban also was like, oh, that's Bones. I was like, that's weird because I knew like his sci-fi roles and that one of his best roles I actually loved him in was the second Bourne movie, the Bourne Ultimatum.
What's he in the first
Yeah.
one? I thought he was in the first
No,
one.
it was the second one. He played
Oh.
that Russian SV.
Yeah.
Clive Owen was in the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm good.
I think what's interesting is like because they're all like kind of new-ish to blockbusters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You get like this very interesting chemistry between them. Like watch Guardian of the Galaxy. You don't see the cast having that much fun as like I remember seeing like behind the scene pictures or video. They used to sing all the time and have like these like video shots with like their Nokia or whatever it was. It's so low quality. Or even the interviews where like you see like such a chemistry because I think there was none of them that was maybe Carl Urban, let's be honest. That was like a huge like blockbuster star like now you see in Marvel in the MCU, so it's also something that I look at with like a lot of good memories because they made you feel like you wanted to be part of the crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love watching the interviews with Quinto and Pine together because they always used to try to put in like those $5 like vocabulary words. Like they kept on trying to top each other. It was so funny.
The Five Guys one with Carl Urban and John Cho. Were like you want to go to Five Guys? You know what it was?
Oh yeah.
The outtakes of the movie are also just like wonderful. Yeah, so I didn't know about any of these people, most of these people. I knew obviously Simon Pegg. When he was cast as Scotty, here's another controversial opinion. I was very much in the camp of wanting Paul McGillen from Stargate Atlantis, who played Dr. Carson Beckett. And there was a big, not uproar, but there was a big like roaring for him to be cast in the role. And I know like people are upset when he didn't get cast as Scotty. So He does have a role. He's the
Yeah.
crew chief on the deck when he's assigning people to ships. So he did make it into the movie, but not as Scotty. So I remember when Simon Pegg was cast, I was like, damn it, but he's so fucking good, right? So that went away very quickly. He was so good. Didn't know Zoe Saldana, but she was excellent. Bruce Greenwood as Pike was a treasure. He is up there. The scene in the bar with him and Kirk is my second favorite scene from the movie. John Cho, I also didn't know, and all my friends were like, have you never seen Harold and Kumar? And I'm like, no, I've never seen Harold and Kumar. Sorry.
Never.
Have you seen it now?
Nope, still haven't seen it.
American Pie.
I've seen the original American Pie, but I don't remember him.
He's one of the MILF guys.
Yeah, he's
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Just
Yep.
watch, if you have to watch the clips with Neil Patrick Harris in the film.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Zachary Quino, man, the minute he was cast, I was like, oh yeah, Siler. Like, come on. Of course he's Spock. And I loved the lead up too with him and Leonard, like seeing how close that they got on the set and during interviews and after the fact. I thought that was really beautiful. Chris Pine was my biggest, like, he doesn't look like Kirk. He doesn't sound like Kirk. How are they going to pull this off? And they really did. And I will say that I think the rest of this cast does a really good job fitting into their roles. I think, and you guys can disagree with me or not, I don't think that Chris Pine really fully evolved into Kirk until Beyond, where I thought that he was absolutely fantastic in the role. And then Carl Urban, Xena, the Chronicles of Riddick, Faramir from Lord of the Rings. Like, I love the dude. And then I didn't know that he got an acting coach to do. Dana said he got an acting coach to make sure he got DeForest Kelly's mannerisms down. I felt like I read an interview where he wasn't actually trying that hard. He was just trying to, I don't know. I could be dead wrong, but
Well, I mean, as I recall, he's a huge Star Trek nerd, so he was like,
yeah. I mean, he fucking nailed it. I
Because he's a good man.
will agree. Yeah, he
That
is.
is
a good man.
why.
Like, he still is like the best of the best. Like, are you out of your Vulcan mind? Like, he delivers that like so well. He was brilliant.
Can I just point out one more person?
Please. Yeah.
When they cast Anton Yelchin as Chekhov, I was like, he is perfect because all the movies that I'd seen him before earlier, he was always like the standout person, even though he was so young at the time. So seeing him be this boy genius, I was just like, you nailed it. And someone who actually
and the
can speak
accent's
Russian.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had to change his real accent, his real Russian accent for him.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I fell in love with him after Alpha Dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
I want to read this comment from Dave Hildebrand because I completely disagree with it and I want to get you guys' opinions. I tried to watch him as Dredd in the movie remake. I honestly could not watch the movie, too far off from the Stallone version. I don't know. I fucking loved him as
Dredd
Dredd.
is so close to the actual
Dredd is
comic.
so
Yeah, to the comic. It's so
perfect.
good.
He doesn't take off his helmet. That's why it's perfect.
Yeah,
That's
movie
Dredd.
fucking rocks. That movie
Did you guys see it in
rocks.
3D?
No.
I saw it in theaters in 3D and it blew my fucking brain.
That's awesome.
1 against 5. Dave.
Sorry, Dave.
The
right.
Stallone version? Really? Anybody loves that?
I am the law.
I'm not even going to try and do it. You guys did it wonderfully.
Law. That's
No, yo, Adrian, I'm the law.
When my war was yours.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah. We got another character to talk about.
Yeah, and that character is the Enterprise. So a lot has been said about this version of the Enterprise, from it being called a hot rod, the bridge looking like the Apple Store, the proportions being off. And then, of course, all the people that love it, like me. What was your first reaction when they released that first still of the new Enterprise, MC?
I mean, like, because I was not a huge Star Trek fan, I didn't have a huge reaction to it. But to all of those, things that you brought up, nerd, like seriously, like so much of the stuff, like I have no problem with the look of the bridge. Like, and I know like this is something that keeps on coming up with like Strange New Worlds. It's like, well, it doesn't look like, TOS. And it's like, yes, of
People
course it
need to
doesn't look
shut
like
the fuck
TOS
up about
because it's not the 60s anymore.
See what I'm saying about people being nitpicky about random things?
Yeah. And the proportions being off. Like, I know like a lot of people talk about how this Enterprise is just massive. I never fucking noticed that because, I mean, it's a big ship that's mostly in space. Like, I don't really like the scale, like it is all off anyways. So all I know is like it's a big spaceship. Whatever. It's people when getting into like the blueprints and everything and it's like you don't have to pay attention to that stuff. You guys just choose to. And it's a nice, sleek ship, and I think it works very well for this movie. Of course, there's a lot of reflective surfaces for lens flare.
Yep. Giraffe.
I listen, me in 2009, I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea how it was different from
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
Star Trek before. Like, I don't know. It's the Enterprise. Basically a packlet. It's another
Enterprise.
No idea. Now, I don't think I could pick up the Kelvin versus Enterprise out of a line. I have no idea what it looks like. I like the inside. I know that rewatching it, the difference of treatment of just like the sets compared to Enterprise or like Voyager, like how beautiful they are, how like the lights and the when they like in Beyond when they run into the corridor that keeps turning is like so good. He's gone.
He's getting a little ship, I assume.
Like fucker with like not knowing what the Enterprise is.
Yeah, I told you.
God, they get a ship.
Okay. Well, it's still the Enterprise, like, I don't know. But one thing that I know cracked me up even when I watched the movie the first time is engineering. Why the hell is
Did they
there
film
so
it in
much
Budweiser?
water
Because they filmed it at Budweiser.
I know that. But it's so out of, like, why would it look like that?
They need a lot of water for those nuclear vessels.
True.
It warms down the warp core.
Tubes everywhere.
They wanted
And
that
the
stupid
thing is,
steam
like,
with Scotty.
We see engineering so much in Star Trek. In every single series before that we know what a warp core looks like. And that's just a bunch of tubes. And I'm like, I remember this being like a letdown. That's the only thing. But like the outside, I don't know. Nacelles, yes, whatever.
I'd like to get my hands on her ample nacelles if you mind the engineering reference. I love that line from Scotty so much. Eric.
I fucking love Ryan Church's design for the 2009 Enterprise. I like that it is based on a hot rod and how it's supposed to be sleeker. Yeah, I got mine too. Like, but mine has the Blu-rays on the inside.
Got the Blu-ray one. Yes.
So, that's how much I liked it. Like,
I have that phaser too.
I loved it. I loved the engineering was a little weird. I didn't like that there weren't stations, but they were just sort of around these like
Tubes.
giant
What they are.
cylinders with no cylinders. There wasn't even the tubes. Like the cylinders, which obviously housed like the hops and shit. But because we know beer makes this ship go.
It certainly does.
The thing I really liked about the ship, other than like the aesthetic of the bridge, is how big the bridge was. I loved how many people were on that bridge. Because manning a ship of this size, you need that many people. It felt like Battlestar. Like there was that many people in the command center, which I loved.
And it made it feel like an actual working like military ship. Because like if you look at like these real ships, like these Air Force like carriers and Navy ships, or even the small cramped submarines have a shit ton of people working inside of them.
For sure,
I like that too.
For sure. And I want to go back because when we see the Kelvin, it's so closer to the TOS we know. So
Yeah.
seeing how much it changes from that point to the Enterprise, and knowing that all of this happened because of the shift in time, like I thought that was such a smart move. I loved it.
Yeah. Hawk?
I loved the Enterprise. First up, the exterior wise, and that how like even trying to modernize it, like for a movie, and that they didn't really screw around too much with the design, and that they kept it like pretty accurate to the original. The bridge, I love the bridge. I like the lighting and everything. I love the color on it and that. I think the bridge was kind of their best excuse to kind of, show something that kind of visually popped in that, like maybe as a nod to like TOS and the old, like, the way those colors used to just pop on screen and that. That for me, like the bridge, I loved it. Like, we get like there's so much time spent on it and that, and so many important conversations that, and it just looked great on film. No, I absolutely loved the design.
I know
All
people
these
were
consoles
yeah.
perfect to smash Kirk's
Yeah,
face into
exactly.
it.
That too.
Exactly. Remember that cracking and that?
Oh. I remember people making fun of it like being at an Apple store, but
Apple Store, yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was the flagship and it's new. It's brand new.
Yeah.
Why not make it that shiny and awesome?
Yeah.
This ship is so fucking cool. And do you want to like get nitpicky about proportions a little bit? Sure. Does like the engineering section like come up a little bit too far to the saucer? If you want to say so, sure. Do the cells like go super elongated? Yeah, they do. Does it not look fucking cool though? Yes, it's a fucking dope ass starship. It's the Enterprise on a big screen made to be in a fucking movie. It's gorgeous. I love this ship. When I first saw that picture, and listen, I gotta give massive shout outs this entire episode to Trek Movie, because like I got all of my information from them when this movie was coming out. That's like where I went to see the image of the ship for the first time. Just like everything about this movie, they did such a good job. Love them for that. The bridge, I fucking love that bridge. I think it's sleek. I think it's cool. I think it's got one of the sexiest captain's chairs ever. Pike made that bridge look good too, like Bruce Greenwood. It was just a really cool ship. And for all the people that are like, well, it's like way too big for the Enterprise. All of these things that people complained about in the movie, like there were in-universe explanations for. Like the Enterprise was bigger than the Enterprise E because they built the Enterprise specifically as a response to what Nero did, right? They advanced technology because they got scared, which is what leads us directly into darkness, right? And building an even bigger ship than this Enterprise. Starfleet got scared. They got more militarized.
And they also took like 20 more years to build it too.
Yeah, and so you got this. So, there's in-universe reasons for all of these things. Yeah, exactly. Kang just wrote, I like the idea of the Kelvinverse Enterprise being a little bit bigger and more intimidating because Starfleet made the Constitution class meaner after the Kelvin incident. That's exactly what happened. So, I love the Enterprise. I love this movie. Let's talk about some of the plot elements of it, because there were some choices made in this movie that were really ballsy, and I think J.J. Abrams does deserve a lot of credit for that. Let's talk about this first one. What did we think about tying this movie into the greater Trek universe, right? With the Romulan star exploding, being in the future, getting that countdown comic that kind of connects it to TNG, Spock trying to save it, and thus creating the alternate universe now that we call the Kelvinverse. MC.
This was the best way they could do this. I'm sorry, my cat is throwing up a hairball right behind me.
Oh, awesome.
I'm sorry. You okay there, kid?
I want to know what the hell is going on.
Looks like he's almost got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my
No.
God.
Okay.
This was the best thing that they could have done for this movie, because I know so many people were upset about the fact that they were rebooting Star Trek, where it's just like, oh my God, they're going to negate like everything that happened in TOS. but by doing it this way, by making it an alternate timeline, by having things that actually do take place in a post TNG world, you're basically just creating this like great loop where we can have this completely separate timeline, and it's just it creates such a rich mythology for Star Trek to have like this huge event of Romulus being destroyed, something that I think they need to actually explore better in the current like Prime universe, because they really haven't, and it drives me, up the wall, because they keep on doing stuff with Romulans and they don't really talk about the destruction of their planet.
Great books about it, but not in like Picard tried and failed.
Picard tried and did not too bad in season 1.
They didn't do bad in season 1, but then kind of forgot.
Yeah, but they forgot about all the cool stuff they did, like the cool like characters and all this, and like, fuck it, we're like gonna murder all of them. Yeah, it's me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. When I watched the movie in 2009, like, to be honest, I had internet, but there were no like streaming services, so I was not like rewatching Star Trek like I do now, like just putting it on while I do something else. So it was far away from me. Like a lot of it was more of a memory of like things I liked when I was a teenager, and things like this. So to be honest, it's being linked to like a greater Star Trek. For me it's TOS, I didn't remember any of the big plot line of like TNG or like DS9. I mean, I remembered vaguely, but I would not have been able like to quote the lore, and be like, oh yeah, like I had not drank the Romulan cool ale. Thank you.
I got you.
So I know that I was just disappointed that the Romulans didn't look like Romulans, because I always kind of like the TOS aesthetic, and I feel we get the TOS aesthetic about a lot of things in that movie, but not the Romulans, which is so disappointing. That's fair. So yeah, I was just here for more Star Trek, plot or not. Now I think like they did a great job at, making it a new story without adding to canon, and not having like people coming back after them being like, well, actually. So
right,
it's a great idea.
And it's cool that like it can start being talked about, right, in the shows that we're watching now. Like it's been brought up in Discovery a couple times. Like I like that a lot. Eric,
before I start, I'm going to give props to Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman, because they wrote the script, not J.J. Abrams.
They did.
Even though J.J. Abrams gave some input, they were the main people. And I remember liking them because they did Alias, they did Lost, and I liked the first Transformers movie.
Me too.
So I enjoyed it. And I remember when Transformers came out, and you're like, okay, how are they going to deal with the legacy of this, right? Because there's a lot of it. And I think they brought it into a modern sensibility really well. So when Star Trek came out, I was like, we'll see how they're going to do. And as an Enterprise fan, and dealing with how much shit we got, or even how much shit we got just being fans of Enterprise. And I remember the internet being so angry at Enterprise for little details and stuff. So them being like, you know what, we're gonna keep it. We're gonna keep TNG and the TOS that already, and just make it sacred. And then we're gonna send them back in time, create our own new thing. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was so smart. So they had their own blank canvas to move forward, and it wouldn't, we wouldn't have to live up to things. They wouldn't have to live up to, maybe having Khan show up, which they ended up doing in the next movie.
No, he didn't. That wasn't
no, he didn't.
Khan.
It was John Harrison.
That's fair. But I like that they were just like, you know what? We're going to do our own thing. We're going to do our own thing, and we're going to do something that no one has seen. And they took chances, and it worked for me, like as a Star Trek fan.
Yeah. Yep. Hawk?
Same. Like the plot works so well, in the fact that, wipes the slate clean and creates a blank slate for them to build off of, and that, but also ties into like the old school TOS era, and that, like, of course Spock would try and save Romulus and that, and he would try and make the impossible happen and that to stop a dying, a star from basically dying. But also that, he's a Spock, who didn't have his gym at this time and that, and like, things went wrong, something about that. It's very like a heartfelt kind of like nod to the old adventures that they had, because they were always trying to pull off the impossible. And Spock thought he could do it, and he almost succeeded, but then like disaster, and in him not succeeding in doing the impossible, he also created a very impossible situation. Um, in its entirety, I absolutely love what they tried to do, and I thought this is so perfect. They're going to build off of this, and they're going to have completely new adventures.
Yeah.
We could get 6 movies out of this.
Oh man, the dream.
The dream. There was
Star
so
Trek
much-
4.
Trek 4. Yeah, where is it? I was really just, I'd always hoped that we'd get like a Deep Space Nine movie. I had always hoped that we'd get a Voyager movie. By the time the
Enterprise?
rumors were, love you, man, but no, sorry. By the time the rumors started coming out about this and what it was going to be, and then finally seeing it realized, I think that, this was the only way that you were going to bring Trek back into the fold, because Paramount basically made this as a make or break. They sunk a shit ton of money in it because the franchise was dead, and we're like, how do we do this? This is how. And they did it. And whether some people hate this movie for what they did or not, we're going to talk about this later. It is the reason that we have this golden age of Trek now. And it is a great story to tell by erasing all of one thing that you absolutely love and then remaking it in this really cool and young way, right? Like, all these actors at the time were like really young, and it was hip and it was cool and there was action, and the story just worked, right? Like, this is, I think, the only time I'm going to be really able to talk about this. Like, those first 12 minutes of the movie are just no bullshit, my favorite 12 minutes of cinema. Not Star Trek, my favorite 12 minutes of cinema. And like, that did it. Like, those 12 minutes is why we have the Calvinverse, and they did it so incredibly well. And Alex Kurtzman, like you're talking about, Eric, like, a really big deal for that and everything that we have now as well. So yeah, tip of the hat. Let's also talk about, I guess we'll talk about this first. So let's talk about Kirk being a dropout type of kid, right? So we know that he's like a smart dude, probably on the gifted level, but drops out and is like getting into bar fights and being a dick. How do we feel about that being the Kirk that we get? Because, in this universe, his dad dies, but then, rises to captain in 3 years and by the end of this film. What do you think about this, MC?
I mean, considering my answer for the Strange New Loop, I mean, it's not surprising that this bothers me so much. I actually am constantly, and I mean, like, you know me, I live for this movie. But this movie is like the Deep Space Nine episode Valiant, but with a happy ending.
Oh, that's a great point. Wow. Wow.
Because I mean, like, Kirk, like, he's not even supposed to be on that ship. Like, he's, brought on, like, he's on probation. He commits a fucking mutiny, and he's still in the chain of command. Like, if you commit a mutiny and you're marooned, like, you would think that if you compromise the captain, it would not go then to Kirk. It would instead go to, I don't know, like McCoy or something, or
Sulu,
anybody.
or
Sulu.
Anybody but Jim.
There's so many people it could be. Or Uhura, because Uhura is keeper of the one brain cell there. But so, I mean, like, they put in all of these obstacles for him, and I still think they could have done him being, a bit of a rebel, more of a rebel than he was in TOS, with his daddy issues, even though I mean, like, Kirk and TOS has daddy issues too.
I thought he had
So-
more brother issues than anything.
I mean, he
else
does.
in
I mean,
TOS,
I
right?
guess it's more. I guess it's more. George who has daddy issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this was a choice because they wanted to make the road as hard for Kirk as possible, and I think they went a little too far because there's so many people like bring up like, oh, you know, Uhura is a Mary Sue, Rey in Star Wars is a Mary Sue. No, I actually think Kirk in this is a little closer to a Mary Sue than like
Kirk in this is way more of a Mary Sue than Rey ever was. Period.
Yeah.
End of story. Like,
that's actually a storyline in Ensign Sue Must Die. So, but yes, giraffe.
She's coming for your job, Julian. Do something.
I like not having to do much. So there you go.
Yeah, I think it bothers me more and more now that I watch more and more Star Trek because I feel that they made Kirk a hothead because his dad is dead. When like TOS Kirk is kind of a hothead, but he's also a very balanced and very knowledgeable and very nerdy person, and that you can be both.
And
I feel like they
he
were-
earned everything that he got.
yeah, and I feel like they were like, oh, we're gonna take like that very Shatner-esque Kirk vision of people who don't really know the show and how they imagine Kirk, like that, you know, ladies man, hothead, let's fight, and we're gonna build from that vision of Kirk. We're gonna back it back. We're gonna build it backward and be like, see, he's like that because he didn't have a dad. And I'm like, I think it takes away from the character because I like the fact, and I didn't know that so much in the idea that for me it was like, oh, he's acting like Kirk in TOS, you know, I didn't really. And now that I look back, I'm like, I feel they took away a huge part of what makes Kirk interesting and complex in the series and made him kind of a Mary Sue. Like, like let's be honest.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's the cute white boy that gets everything his way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I think it's good that we kind of retired that trope mostly, I feel ish.
Ish.
Yeah.
Doesn't get the girl. Doesn't get the girl.
Does not get
He
the girl.
doesn't get
that's
the
true.
girl. Yeah.
He got the ship, which is a big girl.
Yeah, that's true. He did get the ship.
His true love.
Literally his true love. So he did get the girl.
I don't feel like I feel like Kirk in 2009 is not really interesting.
I agree
feel
completely.
Kirk is way more interesting in Beyond than he was in 2009 because he's kind of a dick. Let's be honest.
No, he is.
Like, I mean, he
Yeah.
punches down Spock, who just lost his mother. Like,
To be fair, Spock told him to do that.
He
yeah,
told
I
him
know,
to
but like
emotionally
Spock-
compromise him.
anybody
Didn't
can
he?
Okay,
tell
that's
me-
true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true, Eric. Yeah, okay.
Like
yeah.
you can tell me whatever you want. I'm not gonna like punch
Yeah.
you down when you just lost a
Lost your
parent in
mom.
a
Yeah.
horrible way, like to get what I want. That's kind of like a thing that I don't think TOS Kirk would ever do. And yeah, good thing that there is Beyond because he's way more lovable in Beyond and interesting. Yeah.
Yep. Eric?
I think it makes sense, like how he, you know, with the daddy issues and everything that everyone said. It was just for me the immediate rise to captain at the end of the movie. Like I assumed he might have been like second in command, maybe to Pike or something. Like there could have been adventures in between this and the next one. He didn't have to immediately, you know, get the
Yeah.
ship. In this one, he felt like I like TOS and all. But I agree with everything everyone has said before me. So I'm trying to think of my spin. He felt like Han Solo. Like he felt like a Star Trek version of Han Solo in this. But like the early one before we get to know Han Solo, like in the first one,
Yeah.
where he's like, I'm just gonna be a dick this whole movie. And then but
And
without
shoot
the
people first.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he did. Nothing else has happened.
Nothing else has ever happened.
McClunky and whatnot.
You had to say it.
I know. The punching down was unnecessary. Like he's so smart, and you can tell that in this movie that he's smart, but he just doesn't use it. I feel like he could have been so much smarter with the Kobayashi Maru instead of like sleeping with someone to get them to change something. Like that seems like such a shitty way to do it.
It's also shitty for Gala.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I wish they had kept the scene where she had confronted him about it. Like that would have been better. Like you see her
Release the SNP cut.
No, like, and that's the other frustrating thing too. Like Jim gets accommodation in the Prime universe for what was it? Something thinking like higher thinking or like because he came
Thinking
up
out
with
of
the
box,
idea and is the one that reprogrammed the computer himself, and he gets accommodation for it. This it's like it's icky.
There are icky parts. He's icky in this movie.
Yeah.
And like everyone said, like he gets so much better as the movies go on, but you know.
Yeah. Yep. Original thinking. That's right, Jedi Cat. That's right. Hawk.
Yeah, these are a lot of great points. I mean, personally, I could kind of see like the direction they took in that. You know, it's like, maybe they're trying to say something about the effect like his dad had on him, like growing up in that, and like shaping him into the Kirk we knew in the Prime universe and that, versus like this kind of a wild a very wild child in that because he's a little kid when he steals a car in that. So.
I mean, listening to Beastie Boys at that young of age, man.
Yeah, I know it. It rots your brain.
As I listen to Offspring Smash like on repeat at that age.
I will hear nothing against the Beastie Boys.
No, Beastie Boys are amazing.
I love the Beastie Boys. All props. Yeah, I totally agree with you in that his rise to captain, and especially to captain of the Enterprise, and that seems so quick in that, and it's I guess it's like it's just because plot wise he had to be there at the end of the movie in that in the command, but yeah, it didn't seem. Like the whole thing with the thing, sleeping with a woman just to get her to reprogram the computer for it. It's like, it's almost like those bad habits, he had as a child just followed him in, even though he was like, I'm going to do this in, 3 years and that, make captain and that, but he's still taking shortcuts.
Yeah.
He sleeps with a woman to reprogram the thing and then harasses her roommate, like in like the same breath. Like it's,
It's very 2009.
I mean, yeah.
It's a bit older than that.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
I still don't like him making captain this quickly in the movie. It was the one icky part for me. It didn't stop me from watching this a million times. It's I still love this movie. I think there's definitely something to him being Pike's first officer in this, which was also be a big change from TOS. It also makes Into Darkness, I think, a much better film, being his first officer. Like Pike dying in that film, and that's the way that Jim inherits the Enterprise. Like packs a much more emotional punch than him doing what Jim does and fucking up again, and then basically getting it back because Pike dies kind of for his fuck up. If that makes sense. Like I don't know, like. Imagine that being the actual situation where he's learned so much under Pike. Pike all of a sudden gets killed and he's thrust into command of this ship, right? I think that makes and listen, I'm a big Into Darkness defender as well. I think that makes that movie much more interesting. So I thought it was lame. Chris Pine was very icky in this movie. Like I said, it took me 2 movies.
Not Chris Pine.
Not Chris Pine, but Jim Kirk.
Yeah, he did very well with what he was given.
Yes, he did.
What he was given was not.
It really took me to be on to like really get into the character. So, J.J. Abrams saying, "Fuck it, we're gonna blow up Vulcan." MC.
Oh my God, this is like there's 2 huge things that they did in this movie that basically said, yeah, this isn't TOS anymore. This is a completely different thing. And we'll talk about the other thing next. Blowing up Vulcan. As somebody who, like, at this point when I was seeing this movie for the first time, the only Star Trek I had seen all the way through was Deep Space Nine, in which Vulcan does not matter at all. But I still knew the importance of Vulcan. And aside from Earth, there's no more important planet in Star Trek lore. It's I mean, it's like what happens in Lower Decks, where it's like you're counting Earth, are you counting Vulcan? You might as well count Earth, and because that's just how ubiquitous it is, and you're getting rid of it. This is like
I love
a
that joke.
seat of
It's a great joke.
the Federation, and not only are you destroying Vulcan, but you're setting Spock on a completely different path. That I think this is what they were trying to do with Kirk, by killing his dad. And I think it's a lot more successful with Spock. One, because we know how important Vulcan and being a Vulcan is to Spock, even just from the little bit we see in this movie. And there's a lot more of a switch to him from before Vulcan is destroyed and afterwards. And of course, also the loss of Amanda. It is putting Spock into this completely different mode that is, I know a lot of people get very upset about Zachary Quinto's Spock being a lot more emotional than Leonard Nimoy's. But I mean, especially for this movie, it is absolutely justified, because we know from other Star Treks, and they reiterate it in this one, that Vulcans feel deeper than humans. It's just they are able to control it. And this is one of the only situations that Spock would lose that kind of control, because he has lost his tether. Like, everything he has known has changed, and it creates a really interesting dynamic to explore with him that I think they carry all of the way through the movies, and is generally well done, with a few exceptions.
Nice. Giraffe?
Yeah, I mean, all that, but it kind of pissed me off that they did it without addressing anything around. Like, I'm a sucker for Star Trek politics. And I don't know, you blew up like a huge piece of the Federation, right? Like, imagine all the Silicon Valley-esque thing that's all going on Vulcan. All the trade, all the knowledge, all that. And then what number does he give? Like 10,000? What does he say?
10,000 left, 6 billion dead.
Like, okay, there's not 10,000.
Numbers
Vulcan.
are off.
Like, the numbers are way off. Like, we know Vulcan has a bunch of colony planets. Like, we know it from all the Trek before. And I feel like they did Vulcan dirty in the idea that it's not really addressed how absolutely mind-boggling such an event will be. Like, we see it through Spock because he loses his mom and his people and so on, but it's like kind of like if they blew up a city,
Yeah.
and they're like, it's sad. It was like, no, that everybody would be freaking out. Like, it's like, imagine taking off a whole continent in this planet. Like, that would be the level of like, what the fuck? And they treat it like it's kind of small. And I like the fact that, it's the whole introspection on Spock, but I don't know. I feel like they just didn't really make enough ripple. Like, we don't even hear about it in Beyond. Like, there's no acknowledgement that they lost a whole ass planet. And that's what, for me, I feel it was very bold and very cool that they did that, but then why not do anything with it?
I don't know if they didn't do anything with it, though, because in the darkness, like, everything that Marcus does is responsible for Nero and Vulcan being destroyed.
Yeah, but they don't they're freaking out because they don't want Earth to happen, but where are the refugees? Where are,
fair.
You know what I mean? Like, you see, for example, in Discovery, they blew up planets, and you hear that there's a lot of like human repercussion like behind that. They have refugees,
and you bring up
people. They have to have a whole task force taking care of that.
Yeah.
Even if you don't see it,
No,
you know
you bring up a good point, because they also they have Spock at the end of the movie kind of give that, like, they kind of wash it away with I already have found a perfect planet for a new Vulcan colony. So it's like, oh, it's all sunshine and rainbows. Everything's fine.
And even Picard did it very well, because like
Oh,
we know
yeah.
that the destruction of Romulan like created a shit show of like people everywhere going to planets where they're not supposed to be, people not wanting them, like now when we have like refugee crisis, right?
Yeah.
But at a scale that is like unimaginable. Like, and I'm just disappointed that they went bold. And then we're like, oh, it's 10,000 people. No, it's not 10,000 people. No, it is not. So yeah, and even like the fleet, the Vulcan fleet, like we keep seeing the Vulcan fleet all the time, like in lower decks and so on. Like they have a huge ship. Like where is that? Where is it? What happened? Oh, anyway, yeah.
Good points, Eric.
I agree with Giraffe, especially about the repercussions of the explosion. Like, you don't really feel it. Like, there's that one scene in the medical bay where you see people are sad and crying, and that they have some refugees. But really, the effects aren't seen. Not like when Book loses his planet, and we really feel it. Like
it's literally the entire season of Disco. Yeah,
exactly.
I think that's the difference between a movie and a TV show.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. As well, this felt like Vulcan is such an important planet. But it just felt like when Alderaan was blown up in episode 4. Like, it was there to show the power of this weapon.
The weapon, yeah.
And because there's going to be a more important scene later where they're going to try and blow up something else. And that sort of felt weird for me. Like, I like that Picard showed the repercussions of this whole thing happening, because it felt more real to me. But this just felt like, as much as I love it and I love the visuals of it, it just felt like it was there in place of, Earth is going to get destroyed later. We have to up the stakes, right?
It's a JJ trope too.
Yeah.
This was like the first time that we get that trope a little bit, right?
Yep.
Like, it's like Star Killer's the bigger Death Star, and he doesn't blow up Coruscant. He destroys Hopus Prime or whatever, and we're supposed to feel for
Prime.
that. Thank you, Hosnian Prime. And it's like we're supposed to feel something for them, but we don't.
Yeah. And you get like, there's already echoes earlier in the film to Star Wars, because you get Kirk looking at the ship. It's his binary sunset, right? So it's just there are sequences where you're just like, it's lifting from Star Wars, which I love. And J.J. Abrams himself says it's a big inspiration for this film. But having Vulcan feel like not as impactful, I don't know. It felt weird for me now. Then it was very cool. Now it just, it's yeah.
Hey, we get Sulu with like swords.
I love Sulu with the sword. I will take that anytime. Just give me
That's
it
awesome.
all.
Hot.
Yes.
Hawk.
Everybody's raised such good points already in that. Yes, it was a big, bold move, and that's what JJ does in these films. He makes very big decisions in that, and sometimes the follow through is not there. Bigger point is Spock's identity. Post Vulcan, the collapse of Vulcan and that, because a lot of like Spock's character throughout like TOS and the movies and that, it had a lot to do with his identity as a Vulcan and half human and that, and the conflict that kind of arose in that. And in one fell swoop, all that future of Spock is kind of erased, and being like a member of as he says in the thing, a minority species now.
Endangered species, yeah.
Yeah, he's an endangered species. So yeah, it was bold at the time, shocking, but the follow through, we don't really kind of see like the effect it had on him like that.
I think even just seeing ships leaving that planet being destroyed, like just seeing like a number of ships leaving would have helped just a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
It just felt like they were the only ship there, and there's no way they have 10,000 people on that ship.
No. Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm gonna move on to happier times, and I'm just gonna let MC go off on Spahura, Go ahead. No, but
You're
seriously,
not going to say anything about it?
I'm not. No, I already said talking to you guys what I wanted to say about it. I couldn't add anything. I agree with everything you guys said. I mean, I thought it was cool, right? Like, I thought it was like a big thing to do in a film. The visual effects were stunning. Spock's like everything that Spock does afterwards, I think, is very like compelling. But yeah, you guys hit it right on the head. No, let's talk about them making Spock and Uhura an item in this movie, because I know you want to talk about it.
Yes, I do. Okay. Like I said, after the destruction of Vulcan, this is one of the big changes I've made. And actually, J.J. Abrams thinks that this is an even bigger change than destroying Vulcan. And I do agree with Giraffe's point that she made in The Strange New Loop, that having Spock be her professor is gross. I don't care because it's like in my head, it's like, yes,
Because
I know
they're
it's
not
wrong.
real people, so that's fine.
Yes.
Well, yes, exactly. And also, like, books and comics have like come up with explanations that make it a little more acceptable. So I can accept it in my head. They are so like precious together. It is. I'm sorry. I'm just my shipping heart is exploding right now.
We knew this moment was coming.
MC, you can take my time if you want.
I was trying to figure out what I wanted to say earlier about this because I did actually have like intelligent points. It was, I think, a really important move for them to do. I mean, I know a lot of people have been critical of turning Uhura into the love interest. She still does more in this movie outside of everything with Spock than she did in TOS. Like, she kind of just sat there and repeated the computer. She actually does do some stuff in this outside of everything with Spock. But by having that emotional connection with Spock, you are actually giving her more to do because, yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I would love to have just more Uhura being just Uhura, but they did make a very specific story choice, which, you know, TOS made as well, where we're focusing on Kirk and Spock. And I think that increased even in here, where they said specifically they were making Kirk and Spock Lennon and McCartney. So like the entire story is a through line through them. So by putting Uhura in as the love interest to Spock, they basically made her a part of like the main trio. Like, I mean, if you look at all of the merchandise they came out with, like Uhura was right up there with it. You know, kind of, I know a lot of people were, you know, salty that she kind of replaced McCoy in like the trio. But, you know, I gave me more Uhura merchandise to buy, so I didn't mind it. And with everything that happens with Spock, it is nice that, like I said, like she's the keeper of the brain cell of the crew. She's the one who is able to translate what Spock says. She's the one who is just incredibly level-headed, and you know, it's, you know, all of these, you know, dudes like running around pulling their dicks out trying to prove who has the biggest one, and she's like, I have the biggest one, so, you know, listen to me. And they're just super cute, and it's righting a wrong that has been around since the 60s, because Spock and Uhura were supposed to be a couple in TOS. That's why in like the early episodes, there is a ton of flirting between them. But the producers were like, cut that shit out because we don't want to have, you know, an interracial couple on our show, which is actually, I think, why there were so many Uhura scenes cut out of the first season, because they were probably setting up stuff with her and Spock. And Nichelle loved it. Leonard Nimoy was jealous that he wasn't able to do it. And it's, I mean, if it wasn't for Spock and Uhura, I would not be here because, like, I mean, yes, I say that it's my love of the Kelvinverse movies, but it's because I started writing Spock and Uhura fanfic.
There it is.
That's how I found her.
Yep. 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 Amazing. Giraffe.
Yeah, so I lost my mind when I saw it because let's be honest, everyone wants to get Spock.
It's so true.
It is so true. Like it's you know what? He's like the one that everybody wants to fuck. Let's be honest. There's something about the quiet ones, you know? Like and
The quiet ones have the best sex, like, period. End of story. There
like
it is.
you
he's a
know, like
freak.
what's that guy's deal like from the beginning? And the fact that you know Uhura gets the pretty boy, I was like, do you know how often it happens? Like look at any like Star Trek. Already like there's not a lot of black women. Like I know people are like, well, there was one captain here, one captain there. Like now, like recurring like crew person. Like think about it. We have black men for sure, but black women, they're like almost not here. They're occasionally here. So having Uhura was already like my key person in like that fandom. And she gets Spock. I was like
Yeah.
living vicariously like through that. And you know, even like there are not a lot of mixed couple also in Star Trek. Think about it. There's not a lot. And well, that's my parents for me. And it's always something that I look upon like with, you know, kind of kindness and happiness because I don't see my family or my story often on screen ever. Like you having Uhura was my most important person in Star Trek. Getting with Spock was my the second most important person in Star Trek was like so incredible. And you know, it is also as always in this fandom. Like it's always hard when you see people being like, yeah, but me. Like, yeah, but you have all the rest. Like, give me one thing. I want one thing. Like, please, like one. And you know, she got so much shit like from a lot of people because she's a strong character and she gets something that everybody wants and then well she has to be bad, she has to be poorly written. The poorly written shit is always look at every time they talk about it. Like we saw it in Star Wars, it's always the same character. Don't you see like a common thing, common thread? Yeah. Oh, she is too angry. Oh, the angry black woman? Really? Really? Like she's too mean. Oh, she has nothing to do. Like all these are like also criticism that we see again and again and again and again and again. We hear always the same thing, always about the same kind of character, which is very revealing of also the inherent and implicit bias. Because I'm gonna say implicit bias because you know there are a lot of people that I think have not checked themselves and have not thought why they think that. So I'm gonna call it implicit bias because I'm nice. But there's a lot of implicit bias that Uhura should still be Uhura from TOS, like, you know, the one sitting there, not knowing Klingonese, you know? And the fact that she has shit to say, she has fucking boundaries, she has like, you know, she has agency, and that she gets the guy that everybody wants, oh, that makes it fully written, right? Well, for me, she was very well written.
And she's even better. Like she's well written in '09, and then she's a fucking rock star in Into Darkness. Like you know,
Yeah.
I fucking she don't.
And the thing
I want to do another pod on that
is
movie.
that you know, Spuhura is an interesting part of the fandom because that's a little bit before Discovery. like the only place where it was like kind of a safe space for black women. And I met a lot of like amazing people there, amazing women. I mean, MC. But I also met like women who are artists, who are musicians, who are like Trekkies. Like I met people that I don't see in the rest of the fandom because they hide in that corner over there where they know that we're not gonna hear, well, you know, Uhura, she's so mean. Like, I never was disappointed by anybody in that small corner there. And I think it's amazing that O9 opened that little window for a lot of the fandom to finally be, oh my god.
I love it. I love it.
You know, and feel validated. That's the
Yeah.
thing. It's like the question of feeling validated in your feeling, in your love, in your little like head cannons is incredible because that doesn't happen very often. So yeah.
So, you mentioned,
back,
people
MC.
complaining about
This is their
Uhura
part of the
being
show.
poorly
Oh, yeah.
written. I have literally seen people complain about Uhura, her role being diminished because she's with Spock, and the exact same person rewriting the entire movie and giving Uhura's scenes to Jim. Because that's not diminishing her at all.
I mean, how fast in the Strange New World promo image people replaced Uhura by Spock? You remember that?
Yep, sure
That
do.
is true.
Oh, by Jim. I don't
Sure
remember which one.
do.
But it just, it just kind of sad that everybody's always like celebrating Nichelle Nicole and celebrating Uhura, but like it's not like check what people are actually saying, and you'll see that it's just like a reverence of words because we revere Nichelle Nichols, but we don't see her place in
Right.
like how she's important. I mean, now, thank God, I think the universe or whoever, like new Star Trek has so many more, what do you say, like examples. Like there are so many. Like we have Mariner, we have Carol Freeman, we have Michael Burnham. Like it's suddenly like we're like catching up on like many years of not having them in track. But it's also, I feel, O9 opened the door, like for example, to the conversation between Mariner and Uhura in Strange New World, which is an absolutely incredible conversation. Like I cried when I listened to that piece of that episode. And I think Uhura, even if just that, or really like started that group of fans feeling more together in the fandom, which led to all the rest.
Yeah. Eric?
I have nothing that would like add to this conversation that would make this significant.
Do you find them hot?
They are very hot. I love the scene where Uhura gets to replace the comms person.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's
replace the lieutenant.
I thought that was brilliant, and especially since Star Trek 6 was so weird with her. Wait, was it 6? Undiscovered
six.
Country.
At six.
Undiscovered- yeah.
It's the
Yeah,
worst
it's-
thing in that movie, and I love that movie.
I love that movie. And
too.
it's horrible. Yeah.
That being said, they are gorgeous. I love them. Pretty.
Hulk.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. What have I got to say? I don't have anything to say on this. I'm gonna pass and that draft.
The
MC,
pass button's been worked. Yes.
You've said it all.
I just want to say they are hot, and I love the line at the very end when like they're kissing on the transporter pad, and I forget what he says to her, but just the way she goes, "I'll be monitoring your frequencies," is just like their little cute moment is adorable.
Yeah.
and I
He
love it.
says, "I will be back," and she says, "You better.
Oh, yeah, that's
I'll be
right.
monitoring your frequency."
That's right. And I know it's the next movie, but I also just have to say I love when they're after the whole Klingon thing. I don't know if it's after they get back on the Enterprise or if it's still on Kronos, but when like she like goes on her tippy toes and gives him a little kiss after they made up, I
yeah.
love that moment so much.
It's actually she gets up on her tippy toes, and he realizes that he could actually kiss her because she's forgiven him.
Yes, that. Yes, love it. Love it.
I haven't memorized all of their scenes.
Wow, I would never have imagined that ever. Listen, our last talking point on some of the plot elements tonight is obviously the inclusion of Leonard Nimoy as Spock, the one kind of element of the Star Trek that we know and love carrying over into the new Kelvinverse. MC, what did you think about the addition?
I thought it was such an interesting addition. I mean, as somebody who was not like super into TOS at the time, it did not have the same impact on me then as it does now, where it has all of the impact on me because I love Leonard Nimoy, and especially like looking at it now, Spock is, and I mean, maybe this codified it, where Spock is really like the mascot of Star Trek. And I think that's kind of started when we got into TNG, and like with Nimoy being basically the only person who came on from TOS as an actual character.
Yeah, had like a significant role. Yeah.
But having him in this, and it does create, like I was talking about before, like this whole loop of, tying this universe to the other universe. And it's something that absolutely, it changes everything, because this is as far as the Prime universe knows, the death of Spock. Like the actual death of Spock, because of course Spock has died before. But this is where in the Prime universe, his death date is labeled as, when Romulus is destroyed. And so that's like a huge thing. But then he comes here and he's Ambassador Spock. And this is like a Spock that we have not gotten before, because this is further than we've ever seen him before. And that scene with Prime Spock and Kelvin Spock is beautiful. And you can see, and also the scene with Prime Spock and Kirk, you can see how Spock has evolved over the years, how he is still the Spock that we know and love, but having gone through this centuries now of basically all of the people that he served with on the Enterprise, with the exception of Scotty, are dead. He is like now the survivor, and I mean, especially with losing Jim twice, and
losing and to be fair, sorry to interrupt you real quick, but also losing Sarek and not being able to get closure with that because he was on Romulus trying to make unification happen. Like, that's a huge deal for him too.
Yeah. But he's now come to this point where he's no longer feeling like he has to be the consummate Vulcan, that he has to deny all of the emotional feelings that he has. Because I do think that this is very much a softer Spock, without being overly emotional. And I basically lose it every time he does the mind meld with Kirk, and Kirk starts to cry. And it's Spock's tears that he's crying. I just can't deal with it. And also, I like to imagine that he meets up with the Kelvinverse version of Michael Burnham.
He has to. Listen.
TED Talk, let's go.
He has to. You imagine, like, with everything we know from Strange New World, how much Spock is affected by the loss of his sister. I mean, lost. Like not being, like, having disclosure and suddenly like having her gone, and like, how he hunts for the signal that she arrived and all this, and what she tells him before leaving, like her last words, how definite they are for his life. That when he went back, he looked for her. He didn't say anything. It was really, he just said hi and so on. But the other thing is that, do we know that Michael didn't die in the explosion of Vulcan? That's the other question.
I think she was on Discovery.
Okay.
If Discovery
the
was
Kelvin
built.
version of Discovery.
Yeah, normally she's not there. Like, if she follows the step of Prime Michael, but we don't know that. So yeah. I love Prime Spock. I just like the fact that, he kind of like was it that was you who like put me this idea in my head that he created, like he wished into life.
Yeah. I could actually explain this because Spock had the red matter. He is the one who created the black hole that created the Kelvin verse, and Spock is also, he's telepathic because he's Vulcan. So he basically kind of mind melded with the red matter and kind of created his perfect version of the universe. Like he comes out at the perfect time, like the time when the Enterprise is launched, and all of the people that he is, at the time, because I know Strange New Worlds has established other important people, but at the time were the most important people to him, and people that Chekhov in TOS should be 14 years old at this time. He should not actually be 17. But Spock has actually reshaped the world so that everybody is able to meet at this perfect moment in time.
And you know who's not there? There's Chapel.
She's there.
She's in
Yeah, but we don't see her.
Yeah,
you hear her voice.
Anyway,
I wasn't gonna say anything because
I think that what is beautiful, my headcanon is that he's not dead. Like that guy disappeared so many fucking times. He's not dead. Did
You
you
think
see
he
a body?
just no?
Did you see a body? Nobody saw a body. Like, who tells you that he didn't go back?
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing also, because he's too young, he's very young to die. Like, he's too young for a Vulcan to die. His father died almost twice his age. That guy is somewhere. He's somewhere else.
Well, okay. So not to be a Debbie Downer, but we
Yeah,
could
you
use.
are.
I am gonna be. We could use the disco explanation that he died of the temporal dysplasia.
That's why maybe he went back. Maybe he went back. But Georgiou, it was, it's time and universe.
It's time
Maybe
and
he
universe.
Went back. Maybe he went back. That's why he's not dead. And I think that what's beautiful is that he's here for the new Vulcan. So you know that everything that he went through, I think he also used that to reshape Vulcan society in a way that would be more open-minded to biracial people, especially because now that there are not many Vulcan left, they're gonna have to. That's gonna happen more.
There's gonna have to be some talks with Romulus, yeah.
Yeah, so I do like the fact that it opens the story in two ways. Like you have Prime Spock and Kelvin Spock, but Prime Spock can do so many more things because he knows so much more. Again, I wish we had seen more. But what?
Eric?
Yeah. How to follow this? When this movie was announced and we knew that Zachary Quinto was going to be the new Spock, the weight on his shoulders must have been immense. And what perfect way to pass the baton would there be than having Prime Spock there, right? Like, there's something poetic about having both of them there. And I know that Leonard Nimoy wasn't going to be like a main focus in these films moving forward, but having him basically be like, "You're the Spock. I'm going to go do this thing. We're going to help the Vulcans, thrive again," was like that scene at the end. It's tears, like everyone says, like it's beautiful. I'm trying to think of how to. There's something just so iconic about Leonard Nimoy, and so there's this aura around him that you don't get for most of for a lot of the TOS characters, at least that I can think of in myself. Like MC said, he's pretty much the mascot of Star Trek. Like, is there anyone more iconic than Spock? Like, I can't. There's a reason why our $5 bills were Spocked when Leonard Nimoy died, right? Mm-hmm. That's how much impact he has on nerd culture. Like, I loved having him there so much, and it made it perfect. And it was nice seeing him on the screen again. I thought it was going to be the last time, and I'm glad it wasn't. But it was nice seeing him it was sort of perfect. Like going to that midnight screening for this movie, because remember when midnight screenings were a thing?
We're still a thing. I miss midnight screenings.
And then
Not
having
a
him
thing anymore.
no.
because they just released it on
Not
Thursday
after,
now.
it was between COVID and the shooting in Colorado that happened for The Dark
Oh my
Knight.
Yeah.
They kind of went by the wayside.
Yeah. So having him show up and then having him have the last lines of this film, it was just the perfect thing for him. It was the perfect way to end this film for a Star Trek fan, for me at least. I love that. I think there was nothing better that they could have done.
Hawk?
Yeah, I mean, like his inclusion in this film was like kind of that stabilizing element that the plot really needed in that, because like, obviously we see like Kirk and Spock, throughout this film just at each other's throats, they hate each other in that. And it's that moment where Kirk meets, Prime Spock, and he said like, no, it's like this friendship between us and that has like saved the universe more times and saved each other more times than I can even remember. And it's like, as they said in that, like Nimoy was really the ambassador of this series, right? He never really gave up on Star Trek, and that it's like a lot of them tried to distance themselves from it, but like, never Nimoy. That he loved it. Loved being identified as Spock.
For a while he did.
For the most part,
it took the fandom to really like make him like fully embrace it, which I think is awesome as well. Yeah.
But I still love, like, back in the day, like, remember his appearances on The Simpsons and that, with all those little nods. And that.
Didn't
like,
I?
Looks like my work here is done. And that
You didn't
like,
do
you didn't do anything. Didn't I? And then beams out.
Oh, I love that one.
I know.
Amazing.
Monorail.
Yeah, and, like Trek was rough on a lot of actors, and that's like I remember like reading about Shatner living in a trailer park, like a compute, like after it was done, all the hate mail like Nichelle Nichols got and that after the whole kiss and that, but and but Nimoy probably distanced himself at some point that I'm not Mr. Spock and that, but it was still like, it's weird. It was like home for them. It's like it was something that, people wanted them to return to, and that, their fandom never gave up on them. That's the reason we still have Star Trek and that, like, 40 years after it was canceled. So yes, his inclusion in this film was paramount, not to be too punny.
Hey. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed it from the moment that we got the teaser, right, where we hear his voiceover. I don't really know what else to say other than that. I always kind of had this headcanon. I don't know. It kind of goes to what Giraffe was saying. Like, I really hoped that after what happened with Vulcan and what basically Spock spearheading like the refugee crisis for them, and what Nero did for Romulan Federation relations, that both Spock and Nero incidentally opened up the door for the Federation and the Romulans to have a much bigger and better relations than they ever had in any other Star Trek because of what happened. And I think like Spock kind of maybe does get to see his dream a little bit of some form of reunification, even if that means like allying with the Federation after what happened. Because I think Nero, what he does like really damages the Romulans' reputation, and they have to figure out a way to come back from that. And I think that maybe looms largely on Spock, and he's a big part of that. I think it was a really great way to bring him into this franchise. And I know like the K word in Into Darkness, and calling him about that is a little icky, but it's still good to see him, right? Like, and it's good to hear him. And I thought the way after Leonard died, how they handled it in Beyond was also beautiful. So I think it was a great way to kind of say farewell to Nimoy's version of Spock. Yeah. Last but not least, let's talk to end this one about O9's legacy, right, on this franchise, right? Because the film and its sequels led the groundwork for Trek to come back with Disco, right? And you could see a lot of the design elements from the Kelvinverse in early Discovery seasons, which I think is always cool. Obviously, we get that because of Alex Kurtzman, and Neville Page, who worked on both the films and Discovery. How relevant was these or were these films getting Trek back to television, back to Paramount, and obviously Paramount Plus, MC?
1,000% relevant. When this movie came out, Trek was dead. It was dead, buried, and had been for a couple of years. And it was, I think, like the same year that Beyond came out that Disco did, or it was the next year. Yeah. So these movies, and this first one did incredibly well, both box office wise and critic wise, and how successful the other ones were, I think, can be debated. I think at least critically, Beyond did very well, if not
financially
with the box office. Yeah. And I think the stylistically, obviously, these have, as you said, it really affected Star Trek's visual style. Everything with the backstory, with what happened with Romulus, what happened with Spock, all of this stuff has influenced Star Trek in like the stuff that's set in like the 24th and 25th century. And smaller elements, like Giraffe was saying, with the conversation between Mariner and Uhura in those old scientists. We don't get the Uhura in Strange New Worlds without 2009's Uhura, the Kelvinverse version. Yeah. Because I mean, I love Nichelle Nichols, but they did not give her a lot of meat to work with. And all of the stuff, the being really good at languages, that's stuff that comes from Saldana's version of Uhura.
She gets to speak Klingon in Into Darkness and speak it beautifully.
They keep saying that she has a very good ear.
Yeah.
And you see that in Strange New World with like her ear for music also. Like it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So much of, and honestly, I think I know Discovery, obviously is why we got Strange New Worlds, but Strange New Worlds is very much like a television version of kind of the Kelvinverse, kind of like what we were saying. It's like wanting to see Kirk as the first officer and Pike as the captain. That's almost what we're getting on Strange New Worlds, except a little bit, not as much with Kirk. So yes, absolutely 100%. These films are an indelible part of the Star Trek canon. I hope we get more references to Kelvin actually within the actual stories, but metatextually, they are so important.
Nice.
Listen, Discovery has how many more episodes to make it happen?
4?
4 episodes. We believe. Let's go, Disco.
3?
I don't remember.
4.
Yeah. 4. I think the the legacy of that movie just by talking in the fandom. How many people would tell you I became a Star Trek fan in 2009? That brought me to the fandom, and it also brought Star Trek in the new era of Hollywood where everybody's hot and praise be. no dig to the other series, but you know what I mean, right? Everybody's inhumanly
I don't know.
hot.
Everybody is inhumanly hot on Strange New Worlds too.
No,
Yes.
they opened that door. That's what I meant.
Right.
Before that, if you look at Voyager, for example, they're good-looking people, but they're not.
They're not commercial hot.
They're not Zoe Saldana hot. Though post Kelvinverse, you see Discovery, what the hell are these people made of? And they keep umping up
all of these models,
dude, Strange New Worlds is something else. I'll tell you.
Strange New Worlds is unhealthy level of hot. It's like humans are not looking like that. It's not possible. Like, please. It's also, for me, it didn't make me a Trek fan, but it made me a collector. It's '09
Yeah.
that made me bought my first
Dude.
like Star Trek shit.
Oh no.
I bought so much shit from '09. Oh my god.
I mean, like, you see how
Oh,
many
so
shit I
much.
have from '09 around me, and
yeah.
the first thing I bought was like that, like that giant Delta poster
Yeah.
where you have like the four of them,
Yeah.
which was the real innovation of Kelvin's, that it was not the triumvirate anymore. There were four, not three, Uhura was in.
Yep.
And I think that was like what really like cracked me open and be like, I can be part of that fandom full time. Let's go.
Yeah. Love that. Eric?
Everything that everyone has said earlier, we wouldn't be here today if not for this movie, which is insane to think about. But even more so, I went to this movie so many times in '09, and the amount of different people that I went with, people that weren't nerds, people that had never watched Star Trek, like everyone just wanted to see this movie because it looked damn good in the trailers and all the commercials. And it was a good movie. So people were like, well, fuck, I guess I have to see more Star Trek. And that's an amazing thing to do. Like we can shit upon J.J. Abrams all we want, but he brought people back into Star Trek, which is insane.
And you need zero knowledge of Star Trek to watch that movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you're a
it's
Star
very
Trek,
true.
if you're a Star Trek fan, so many Easter eggs and fun tidbits for us, but for all the other people, no one was lost. Like I took Megan to see Star Wars in theaters, and there were so many things that you need to know beforehand, like the newer ones, that she would just be like, I don't fucking care about this shit.
Yeah.
But this one, totally new people can watch it, and that's a great feat. And then, like everyone said, the aesthetic, they made it modern. They made it faster paced. It was maybe too actiony for some Star Trek fans. I didn't mind it. I love the pacing of this movie, and I love the action sequences, and I love the amount of action sequences there were, because they were all gorgeous and all well done. That first, like Julian was saying earlier, that first 12 minutes is some of the best cinema I've ever seen. I perfectly remember seeing that in theaters and how quiet people got at certain parts of that beginning sequence. Like, it was amazing. Oh man, I want to see it again in theaters now.
The music.
The music. Yeah.
We haven't even
yeah.
talked about Michael
I'm
Giacchino's
going to talk
score
about
for
that
this
in
film.
I'm going to talk about that in the final thoughts.
Okay.
But yeah, it's this film is so important to Star Trek fans, and without them even knowing it, like so many people will shit on this, but it's so important for us because now we have Star Trek.
Yeah. Hawk?
Yeah, I mean, without this movie, there's no, Star Trek does not return to TV, and it does not return to TV looking the way it does, and it's kind of mind-boggling in that like, this one film kind of builds up the house in that gave us like Disco, Picard, Strange New Worlds, and gave us like a technical quality to it that, we didn't even know that we needed it like to have in Star Trek, like that scale that we saw everything on in '09, and that was like perfectly replicated in the first season of Discovery, and it was only 8 years later, and it was television, and you must imagine like, all that production work was happening in 2016 when Beyond was just releasing, and that, I mean, like, the plans were already there. It's like, it's like these movies allowed us to return Star Trek to television.
Yeah.
You
I want to read Jedi Cat's comment real quick. I wish people who threw shade at a Trek show or movie would consider that each one was somebody's entry into the fandom. And
Yes.
that is so true. This movie, I think the biggest thing to take away from Star Trek 2009 for what we get today, this beautiful Trek that we get today, is Alex Kurtzman. Alex Kurtzman made sure that we didn't just get Trek back on TV, but we got a brand new cinematic version of Star Trek on the big screen, because watching Star Trek from 2017 on, a lot with Disco, some with Strange New Worlds. Definitely Picard. I mean, Picard season 3 was like watching him. Like that was a glorified movie, right? Like we have 10-hour movies now for Star Trek because of Alex Kurtzman and what he brought.
Even
also
Prodigy.
Even Prodigy, yeah, to be fair, moments of Lower Decks, you know. And I think that man gets shit on for absolutely no reason, and every single time I see someone say something negative about him, I'm like, you can't be a fan of this franchise, because like it's just beautiful, like what he's managed to do. And I'm not just talking about him as an executive producer. He has directed and written and, you know, like been a huge part of why it looks cinematic, getting the cameras to make it cinematic. Again, I forget the exact cameras that they use. I mentioned it when we did
The one
our
that
watch
turn,
alongs.
like it's the M60 or something like that. The one that do like that, like
That's one of them, but like I'll have to look it back up, but he talks about it a lot, actually, like in special features and stuff. I just, you know, he's such a big part of like why everything that we have now is here, and that all started with 09. So I need to tip my hat to Alex Kurtzman. Final thoughts on this film. We will go in reverse order. Hawk.
As much as we nitpick in that, it's still, you know, it's still a movie I can comfortably go back and watch it, like, you know, from end to end and that, and then I'm going to enjoy myself. You know, it's like I had issues with Into Darkness that, you know, still haven't left me in that. I like Beyond, but never as much as '09 and that. There was just something special of the way it all came together, you know?
Yeah. Eric?
I love this movie so much. There are movies in my life that I remember seeing in theaters and are like touchstone points. Like I remember seeing Fellowship of the Ring in theaters and being like, holy fuck, that was incredible. I remember seeing this movie at night and being like it was so important as a Star Trek fan to see this come back. And then the legacy behind this, and just, it's so good. Watching it today, this movie looks amazing still. Amazing. Like 15 years later, the work that ILM has done on this film is incredible. Like it's some of their best work, and people will just like not think about it because, you know, they think of Star Wars, they think of Jurassic Park. Can you imagine? I can't think of a film that they've done that has this visual like quality that long after, right? Like we can still love Jurassic Park, but you can see that it's dated, right? There are things in even movies around here that ILM has done. This movie is gorgeous.
I mean, just think like you just go to the long shot of the shuttle flying over the saucer section of the Enterprise, and you get the big like NCC 1701. I mean, like that looks like a real shuttlecraft flying over a real starship. Like if I was a kid and I didn't know like the Enterprise was a fake thing, I'd be like, can I go? Like I want to see. Like that's how real that movie looked at points. Like, yeah. Just
even the little nods that they did for Star Trek fans, not having the Enterprise fit in the frame when they first show the full shot, like that's such a nice little nod to Star Trek fans. JJ bringing aboard Ben Burt as the sound designer, like he did such amazing work.
Like that Boseman
the whistle.
Yeah.
Like,
he updated it to a new generation, like everything, the phaser sounds, like everyone. I know a lot of people were upset that it weren't long lasers and they're all like pew pew pews. They sounded amazing. Everything sounded gorgeous. The transporters, oh my god, that new sound was so good. And then finally, we can't talk about sound without talking about Michael Giacchino's amazing score. This is one of my favorite Star Trek scores ever, and
one of my favorite movie scores ever.
We were all singing it before like the podcast started.
We were.
And it's, can you imagine coming back to Star Trek in theaters and having to be like, I have to write the music for this new film, like, and it's the first in a new section of films, right? So you think of when TNG came out, they ended up using the motion
Jerry
picture.
Goldsmith's score, yeah.
They didn't come up with something new. This is totally new and totally iconic. And I want to see Star Trek 4 so I can hear this in theaters again.
Oh my God, yes.
I just want to see Star Trek 4.
That too, yeah, for sure.
No music, no nothing.
Yeah, like this movie means so much in so many different facets. It's incredible. As a Star Trek fan, I love it so much.
Good. Giraffe?
Yeah, the music is iconic. Like every time I think of Onai, I just like start having the music like that.
Yep.
It gives me chills. I love the music, and I'm not a big like movie music from movie nerd. You know, I like music in movies, but I will rarely just listen to soundtracks. But this one, like, I love it so much, and I think it's iconic also too, that I attached it to that moment that like really brought me to the core of the fandom and really like made me obsessed with it. And yeah, it just we didn't speak about the uniforms, but the uniforms are gorgeous.
Oh,
like like these updated colors and these updated materials and these updated like deltas and all this. Like aesthetically, it's really the movie that ushered Star Trek in a new era. Like we see this sleek uniform in Strange New World. Yeah, it's a beautiful movie. Like I didn't rewatch it for that podcast because let's be honest, I think it's one of the movie I've watched the most. I will put it for no good
that's fair.
reason on TV, but I rewatch like pieces of it. This one and Beyond. I love Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond is so funny, and yeah. And my goal is one day to maybe make a cosplay from the Calvin verse, but
yeah. So only so much time. MC.
Jaila.
I have said this before many times. I know this is not the best of Star Trek. I think the best of Star Trek is Deep Space Nine. This is still my favorite. Like, it's just deep embedded in my heart. Part of it might be, I mean, because the thing is, I did watch Star Trek before this. Like, this was not my entrance into Star Trek. I've been watching Star Trek since 1989. But this is what made it click for me, where it's like, oh my God, I really like this thing. I want to absorb this thing. I got into the fandom through this by writing fan fiction. Still writing fan fiction for it. And by writing fan fiction for this, I was just like, I need to know more about Star Trek. So I'm going to watch every other Star Trek that has ever been. And now I'm doing a podcast every week about it. So everything, so much of my life is because of this goddamn movie. And it's just everything that I've been nerding out for the last 3 hours or whatever over this. Like, I don't know if there's really anything more that I can say other than I want to cry when I talk about this movie because I love it so much. I love all three of them. I do have my issues with Into Darkness, Conhu. And also just where is number 4?
Where is number 4? Indeed. I adore this movie. I will say it again. Anytime I have the opportunity to say it, I will say it. If I ever get a chance to teach a film course, my first lesson, my first day of class would be showing the first 12 minutes of this film to my students and asking them why I picked it and just having a conversation about it, because I think that it is a masterful piece of cinema. People are talking about Enterprising Young Men being just a masterful track from Michael Giacchino. It is. I will still say nailing the Calvin. If you're not crying after those first 12 minutes, not just because of what you're seeing on screen, but what you're hearing from his music, then you don't have any emotions. I'm actually at a point where, like, we had a meeting about Trek Long Island and there's a panel spot available, and I'm almost thinking about making that into a panel and doing it. I love this movie. I hoarded shit. Like, I bought so much stuff I didn't need. I bought the Enterprise toy. I bought the shitty tricorder, the shitty communicator, the shitty phaser toy. I bought like 4 different Blu-ray versions of the movie when I didn't need to. I had all the Burger King or McDonald's glasses. Brittany,
I have all of them too.
Brittany got me like another set, and I used them and I broke them.
No.
Well, it's okay because I still have a perfectly good set. There it is. Yeah. Brittany also gifted me like every possible set of the 3D glasses from the movies that you could. She had them for some reason. I'll never forget that. This movie holds such a special place in my heart. I love it. I love the score. I will always have a TED talk with you about the first 12 minutes of it as well. Yeah, I love it. It's amazing.
Can we also say that we wouldn't have Thor today if not for this movie?
Yeah, Chris
yeah.
Hemsworth. Yeah.
That's how he got known, because of this movie. Man.
Anything else? We good? We're going on 2.5 hours, which I mean, I think we were going to do for this one.
Star Trek 4.
I'm going to insert something from the movie because I don't have a soundbite for it, but it is time for the Subspace to Poll and mailbag. Who wants to take the to poll?
I can do it.
All right, Hawk, hit it.
All right. So we asked Trek Twitter how they feel about Star Trek 2009, 15 years later. And this is what they had to say. 56% said, punch it. Still amazing. 20% said, I like this ship.
I like this ship.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
That's what I say about Spahura all the time.
7% said, dare you to do better. And 17% said, out of your Vulcan mind?
There are a lot of people that don't like this movie.
These people were not born when Enterprise
ended, right?
when Enterprise ended.
You didn't live during the dark times. Yeah.
You didn't cross the desert with me.
Yeah. Oh my God. Amazing. If we keep going in that order, we'll go to me. I'll read the first mailbag here. Colin D wrote, not having seen it in a few years, what stands out to me is one, the evolution of Kirk from the hellion he started out as into a pretty damn good starship captain. I feel like that's a little bit debatable, but
exaggerated.
Yeah. The absolute number 2, the absolute heart-wrenching sadness of seeing Vulcan destroyed, yet the deep heartfelt delight of seeing Nimoy's older and wiser Spock. I thought all the younger actors did very good jobs at their younger versions of our beloved TOS characters. However, 3 stood out as my favorite. Simon Pegg as Scotty, Zachary Quinto as Spock, and of course, Carl Urban as McCoy. I've never failed to enjoy the heck out of this movie every single time I see it. Very well done. MC, can you take Techno Dave's, please?
Techno Dave wrote, one enjoyable part of the 2009 movie for me would have to have been when Kirk took the Kobayashi Maru test. It held to canon for the fact it was his 3rd attempt before he hacked the simulation. Gala hacked the simulation. But for him to be munching on an apple like he did when he was sharing his stunt in Wrath of Khan while eating an apple was a hilarious nod to the original flick. And as Colin touched base on, the interaction with Kelvin Kirk and Spock Prime, chef's kiss. And the creative staff behind hiring all of these actors to play the iconic roles, bravo. The best of the entire crew, though, had to have been hiring Carl Urban as Bones. Not only does he get DeForest's portrayal of the good doctor spot on, the other actors did a fantastic job of emulating their counterparts.
Indeed, they did. Draft, can you take Troubles, please?
Trouble wrote, I fondly remember the sassy 10-year-old girl who walked begrudgingly into a movie theater, fully expecting to hate the next 2 hours of her life. Flash forward to today, and that girl is now a total Trekkie. Finally has friends and is doing things she wouldn't think possible. These movies helped make me into the little weirdo I am today, and I gladly watch them on repeat. The actors they chose to play this beloved character did an amazing job paying respect, to what came before while also making something new. Sure, J.J. Abrams isn't the best at what he does and has some weird fetish for lens flares, but a film that is able to change a whole person's life for the better is a pretty darn good way to be remembered. Plus, look at all their stupidly cute faces.
So stupid.
They are stupidly cute.
They are stupidly cute.
Are. Yep. Eric, you take Jedi Cats, please.
Yeah, Jedi Kate wrote, 15 years ago, having recently recovered from serious medical issues, I went into this movie a huge skeptic and was hooked after the first 11 minutes. I was blown away at how Abrams, Kurtzman, and Al and company took this franchise I've loved since childhood and breathed a whole new life into it. The casting of our beloved bridge crew, including Bruce Greenwood as Pike, was brilliant. I adore Chris Pine and Carl Urban to this day, and the return of Leonard Nimoy as Spock was a welcome treat. The movie had some interesting, the surrogate father-son relationship between Pike and Kirk, the appearance of Spock Prime, and shocking twists, the opening sequence, the destruction of Vulcan, the changed timeline, and was one of the most exciting cinematic experiences of my life. It remains one of my all-time favorite Star Trek films and will always hold a special place in my heart.
Love that. I love that. Hawk, you take Chris's, please.
Sure. Chris wrote, '09 got my interest in Star Trek kickstarted again. My mom and I went and saw it in theaters. At that time, I didn't know she had any interest in it. Because of that, it's extra special to me. It also taught me about the cinematography of lens flares.
So many lights.
So many lens flares.
No Hello Christopher joke in Chris' mailbag. I'm disappointed.
Oh. I will close it out with Mars's, who wrote, I gotta admit, when I first saw it, I was super confused by all the alt-universe WTF BBQ stuff. Barbecue stuff, and kind of wrote it off. But the more I watched it, the more intriguing it became. After rewatching it last night, there are a couple of things that kind of stick in my craw. Something about the way Uhura is written, seeming kind of mean girl juvenile, even though it's Kirk et al., the way they get the run of the ship seems a little Red Squad to me. On the flip side, it's more Trek, so let's fucking go. Well said. I love the actors' portrayals of Bones, Scotty, Kirk, Pike, and Spock. All these years later, and this story is still quite relevant to current canon and gives us many potential pathways for further connection. Well said. That's it. We're done. We did it. This was so much fun, guys. And long in a good way. I'm
glad I coerced you into doing this.
Yeah.
It didn't take a lot because,
No, it didn't.
if you want to go into our back episodes, we did like an actual review and deep dive of the film like a couple of years ago. You could check it out. One of our amazing patrons, Tina, showed up and did that with us. So that was fun. But go check out our review if you actually want a review of the film. But this was just a really fun retrospective 15 years later. I'm glad we did it. Let's do Into Darkness at some point.
Yeah,
We might as well.
I'm always game. I will defend the shit out of that film.
Its anniversary is next week.
Yeah. We got to go because we got to do this all again tomorrow night. We got to, and I haven't even watched the episode for a second time or written an outline yet. So I got work to do. So for MC, for Giraffe, for Eric, for Hawk, I am Julian. Live long and prosper. Majram. Good night.
Oh my
Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.